Chapter 374. There was nothing to focus on, and there was no direction to attack. But unfortunately, his hand was controlled by this void, and his profound strength seemed to have been sealed, unable to be used in the slightest. Shen Jinglin looks up at Di Mingju in shock. This man was so strong. He was even stronger than his sister. Then, he couldn't help but look at the two people who were extremely close to him. It was truly a match made in heaven and earth, unparalleled. Shen Jinglin vaguely had an illusion that in this world, there was only one man who could stand by her younger sister's side and not be overshadowed. And vice versa. Di Mingju releases Shen Jinglin's hand. The haughtiness and nobility on his body receded a little. I also think that it's very irresponsible of me to have a physical relationship without the permission of my parents or the words of a matchmaker. As long as Mayan is willing, Ben Jun is willing to make it up at any time. Shen Jinglin was startled. You mean, you want to marry my younger sister? Of course. As long as Yan Yan is willing, the wedding can be held at any time. Saying that, he looks down at Mayan, or is it to say, Yan Yan, you're not willing to take responsibility for Ben Jun. Mu Yan grinds her teeth. This bastard, can he be any more shameless? And who are you calling Yan Yan? Do I know you that well? In the end, Jun Shangdaran relies on his thick skin and peerless appearance to successfully move into the Junji Medical Center's backyard. Moreover, the location of the room was close to Mu Yan and Xiao Bao's. Mu Yan repeatedly assures Shen Jinglin that she and Di Mingju are innocent, and she doesn't intend to get married for the time being. Shen Jinglin hesitantly walked away. Before leaving, he's still nagging, Yan Yan, even if you really like that person, you must still carefully investigate him. You mustn't casually marry him. What if you trusted the wrong person and met an evil person like Jingya, then you? Mu Yan raises the corner of her mouth, revealing a gentle smile, then I'll completely cripple him. Shen Jinglin shuddered. He had almost forgotten how valiant his sister was. How could there be a man in this world who could bully Yan Yan? Mayan only breathes a sigh of relief after Shen Jinglin leaves. Her brother was becoming more and more like a nanny. His incessant interrogation was almost unbearable. However, even though he could not withstand it, amidst such troubles, there was even more sweetness. Because only those who truly cared about you would care about you over and over again, worry about your happiness, anger, sorrow, and happiness, and worry about your future. Mu Yan caught her breath and saw that Xiao Bao was already a little drowsy in her arms. She then sent him into the space and placed him together with the fat rabbit, who was sleeping soundly on his back. He then returned to the front hall and summoned Yan Haotian, Feng Haitang, Ru Yan, Old Tao, Changyu, Qin Qingfeng, and the others. Has anything happened in the past few days? Ru Yan bowed and answered, everything is as usual in the medical center these days. However, Mr. Yan said that there seemed to be unfamiliar powerhouses appearing in the vicinity of the medical center. Their origins and goals are unknown. Mu Yan looks at Yan Haotian. Yan Haotian raised his hand and made a few hand gestures. Some of them have higher cultivation bases than me and Old Tao. We're no match for them. Mu Yan slightly frowns. Maybe Qian Qing had received news that the poison man and his disciple had been killed, and so he had sent someone to investigate. Chapter 375. When Ru Yan and the others see so many drafts, they all reveal looks of pleasant surprise. During this period of time, whether it's the Tianji unit or the ink camp, the drafts have pretty much been consumed. And the draft that Mayan refines is unique. It was impossible to go to the pharmacy outside to restock. Ru Yan and Yan Haotian are worried about what to do with the training of the Tianji unit and the ink camp. Now that Mayan has given them so many special drafts, how could they not be happy? Right, where's Liu Beiyu? Why don't I see him? Mu Yen suddenly asked. Reporting to Miss, Ru Yen bowed and said, "The Third Highness has not returned since he left yesterday." Mu Yen looks up in astonishment. "Because before you disappeared, Miss, you mentioned that in order to treat the third prince's eldest brother, you might need a lot of rare herbs. Therefore, during this period of time, His Highness has been wandering around various large pharmacies. If there's someone in the Junji Medical Center who has the most confidence in Mu Yen and Xiao Bao, then it's definitely Liu Beiyu." The others were more or less worried about whether Mu Yen would suffer a loss, whether Xiao Bao would be abducted on the road. But Liu Beiyu firmly believes, what kind of people are master and little brother? Anyone who wanted to harm them in this world would definitely be beaten until half of their body was paralyzed, and they would be in an incomparably miserable state. "I just have to wait here obediently, collect the medicinal herbs, and wait for Master to come back to save my big brother." Ru Yen thought of Liu Beiyu's calmness and self-confidence and couldn't help but sigh in her heart. This Qi Yen country's Third Highness clearly doesn't have the strength to truss a chicken, but he can become the Mrs. Apprentice and the Little Master's approved junior brother. There's really a reason for that. "But you don't have to worry, Mississippi," Ru Yen promptly adds. When His Highness left, he brought bodyguards with him, and there were also 2 people from the ink camp following him. However, in Tianyuan City, there shouldn't be any danger. Mu Yen slightly frowns, then nods. Her stupid disciple wouldn't be so unlucky as to fall into someone's hands, right? Although the Emperor Garden's layout was luxurious and comfortable, it was still not as good as his own home. That night, Mu Yen and Xiao Bao slept soundly. Xiao Bao's cheeks were rosy. Although there was no expression on his little face, his eyes were especially bright and moist. But today, Xiao Bao sticks to Mu Yen even more than usual. While Mu Yen was washing up, he was also hugging her thigh, looking up at her. As if he was afraid that his mother would disappear again. When it's time to eat, he gets tired of Mu Yan's embrace and lets Mu Yen feed him. Since Mayan hasn't seen Xiao Bao for 7 days, her longing for him will not lessen by even a little. Not only did he not reject Xiao Bao's clinginess, but he was also very happy. The two are like this: you feed me a mouthful, I feed you a spoonful. During this time, Mayan has to lower her head and kiss Xiao Bao's little face. Then, Xiao Bao blushed and kissed Mayan on the cheek. It was extremely sticky. When Di Mingju comes in, he sees this scene. The sea of vinegar in his heart turns the sky and the earth upside down on the spot. He strode forward, grabbed Xiao Bao by the collar, and lifted him up. "Let me go." Xiao Bao screams in anger, using both his hands and feet to struggle free. But his hands and legs are short, how can he break free from Di Mingju? Mayan promptly reaches out to snatch him back. "Di Mingju, let go of my son." But Di Mingju turns a deaf ear, coldly looking at Xiao Bao, finished eating breakfast. Chapter 376. After you're done eating, go to the backyard and cultivate. Di Mingju unhurriedly says in a mocking tone, "Didn't you say that you would become stronger in the future and protect your mother? Is this how you protect her now?" Xiao Bao's face went stiff, and the anger on his face faded away. However, he was still stubborn. "I don't need you to tell me that. I'll train myself, and one day, I'll be stronger than you." Hee, not bad. He loosened his grip, and Xiao Bao fell to the ground. However, he didn't pester Mu Yen like before. Instead, he glanced at Mu Yen. "Mother, Xiao Bao is going to cultivate." After saying that, he strode towards the backyard. Mu Yen looks at his small and lonely figure and feels a little distressed. Her Xiao Bao was only 4 years old. Other 4-year-old children were still acting like spoiled children in their parents' arms, but he had to bear so much. But in the end, she said nothing. Instead, he watches as that little figure arrives at the backyard, and methodically begins to practice the martial skill that Di Mingju gave him. Mu Yan isn't someone who can't tell good from bad. She can see that the martial skill that Di Mingju gave Xiao Bao looks ordinary, but as he cultivates it, the mysterious energy within Xiao Bao's body is being purified and refined little by little. His cultivation did not increase rapidly, but his foundation became more and more stable. Although Xiao Bao's cultivation was still at the mid-heaven tier, his true strength had already surpassed Shirlanling, who was also at the mid-heaven tier. And all of this was done by Di Mingju in secret, quietly for the sake of her and her mother. Mu Yan. A deep male voice comes from behind her. Mu Yan turns around, only to see that Di Mingju is already leisurely sitting at the table, her in Xiao Bao's original position. Seeing Di Mingju slowly handing over the chopsticks, Mu Yan shows a puzzled expression. In the next moment, she hears the man use his magnetic and alluring voice to slowly say, "A family of 3, Mayan, you can't favor one and discriminate against the other. Favoritism. Favoritism." Mu Yan stares blankly at first, then she realizes what this man is saying. Was he implying that she had fed and kissed Xiao Bao, so she had to feed and kiss him as well? Fuck. Could this man be any more shameless? After an indescribable breakfast, Xiao Bao also finished his cultivation and returned to Mu Yan's side. His little face was flushed, and there were beads of sweat on his forehead. He was panting slightly, but his big eyes were full of excitement. The reason for that was because Xiao Bao could sense that his strength was truly growing stronger every time he cultivated a martial skill. One day, he will be able to protect his mother. Mu Yan wipes the sweat from his face, her eyes are indescribably gentle. "Xiao Bao is really great, Nyangqin will take you to take a bath, okay?" Xiao Bao nodded heavily. However, before Mu Yan could hold Xiao Bao's hand, Xiao Bao's small body has already soared into the air, and is held in Di Mingju's arms. This time, Jun Shang's posture of holding the child has become very standard. Unfortunately, Xiao Bao didn't appreciate it. He struggled angrily, "Let me go, I want to be with mother. You're a real man, and you still want your mother to bathe you?" Di Mingju unhurriedly spits out a sentence. In an instant, little Bao's shouts were silenced. But thinking of his mother using gentle movements to scrub his back and wash his hair, Xiao Bao was somewhat unwilling. Her small hands can't help but stretch out in Mayan's direction. Mu Yan promptly reaches out to hug him. "Xiao Bao is still so young, what's wrong with me bathing him?" "Di Mingju, let go, let me hold him." Chapter 377. An affectionate mother spoils her son. In the future, when we have a daughter, Mayan is completely stupefied. By the time she comes back to herself, Di Mingju has already carried Xiao Bao away. She almost spits out a mouthful of old blood from her chest. "Scoundrel, who wants to have a daughter with you?" Di Mingju carries Xiao Bao through the corridor and the crowd, heading towards the bath in the courtyard. Xiao Bao still wants to struggle. Di Mingju says, "You've made good progress these days. That palm against Shirlanling, you didn't lose my face." Xiao Bao's struggling movements stop. His little face is already taut, but there's an inexplicable pride and joy bubbling in his heart. This is the first time this man has praised him. Although he doesn't want to admit it, he feels very happy. Di Mingju continues, "The martial technique I'm teaching you is only the most basic one. If you can reach the 10th rank within 10 days, I'll teach you a more profound one, and I'll also give you a storage ring as a reward." Xiao Bao's eyes are bright, staring straight at Di Mingju. Really? In fact, he really wants a storage space like Nyangqin's. That way, he can go out alone to collect treasures and herbs, and then come back to give them to Nyangqin. Nyangqin originally wanted to give Di Mingju to her, to Xiao Bao. But Xiao Bao refuses. Although he's young, he knows how serious the consequences would be if the Tian Mo Qin space were to be known. Nyang Qin can use this storage ring as a cover. How could he take it? But now, this person says that he will give one to him. Di Mingju carelessly says, "Of course it's true, but you're already a man. You're not allowed to stick to your Nyang Qin all the time." Xiao Bao immediately looks at him with a contemptuous gaze. "I knew it, you're up to no good, you just want to dominate my Nyang Qin. Your Nyang Qin is mine." "Nonsense, Nyang Qin is mine." The two quarrel all the way to the bath. Han Yi and Ning Mei, who were originally guarding outside the courtyard, are already numb from shock when they see this scene. Ever since they got to know Miss June, it's already common for their Jun Shang to do things that he wouldn't do. Now, not only has Jun Shang learned to hold a child, his movements are also very skilled. They would even argue with children in a very childish manner. If this scene were to be seen by those people from the polar domain, the scene would be too beautiful, unimaginable. Chang Yu stands not too far away, watching the scene of Di Mingju and Xiao Bao getting along harmoniously. After staring blankly for a long time, he lowered his eyes to hide the pain and loneliness in them. The scene of the man and the young lady standing together appeared in his mind again. That kind of beauty, that kind of match, only this kind of man is worthy of Miss, right? Chang Yu laughed at himself. Then, all the expressions on his face disappeared, leaving behind only determination and calmness. Hadn't he already decided to stay by Mrs. side? As for that kind of lowly feeling, it was something that he shouldn't have. He had long decided to bury it at the bottom of his heart. Don't let anyone know. As long as he could still protect the young miss and the young master from afar, it was enough. After Xiao Bao and Di Mingju leave, Mayan still plans to go out and look for her stupid apprentice. After advancing to high-level Xiantian realm, Mu Yan could feel that her strength had increased by a large margin. Moreover, for some reason, she felt that there was a restless energy in her body. Chapter 378. Mu Yan didn't alarm anyone when she left. Even Ning Mei and Han Yi, who were guarding her, didn't discover her whereabouts. Going outside, apart from looking for stupid apprentices, Mu Yan also wants to collect some materials for alchemy. She admits that she was stimulated by the matter of Di Mingju asking Shi Lanling to do alchemy. She originally didn't plan to do alchemy anymore after the furnace explosion last time. But now, she decides to give it a try again. Isn't it just alchemy? She doesn't believe that she can't do it. However, not long after Mu Yan steps onto the street, she discovers that she's being followed. She raises her eyebrows, casually strolls through a few medicine shops, and eventually walks into a remote and deserted alley. "Greetings, Miss June." The moment Mu Yan entered the alley, a few figures silently landed in front of her. Seeing them, Mu Yan raises her eyebrows in surprise. As Yan Haotian said, these people's cultivation is very high. They're at least at the peak of Earth stage, and quite a few have even reached Heaven stage. It's no wonder that Ru Yan and the others are deeply worried. It's just that these people's attitude towards her doesn't seem to be something that Qian Qing's subordinates would have. Mu Yan raises her eyebrows. "You followed me all the way, what exactly do you want to do?" The leader is a chubby, kind-looking middle-aged man in embroidered robes. He looks very harmless, but Mu Yan knows that this person has the highest cultivation among this group of black-clothed people. He takes a step forward and slightly salutes Mu Yan. "Miss June, my Wang Ye invites you. I hope that Miss June will come back with us." "You're Wang Ye?" Mu Yan is surprised. Sure enough, it's not Qian Qing, but when did she know Wang Ye? The middle-aged man in embroidered robes shows a hint of pride on his face, but his expression is still gentle, even humble. "My Wang Ye is Huang Yao country's Jean Wang Ye." I've admired Mrs. Goodname for a long time, and hope to see your face. Huangyao Country's Jin Wangye. Mu Yen frowns. This name seems somewhat familiar, but she can't remember it for a while. She hears the middle-aged man in embroidered robes continue. The last time you proposed, it was Steward's son who acted on his own initiative, causing Miss to suffer grievances. Even if he died, he only had himself to blame, and no one could blame him. But my family's prince's love for you can be seen by the heaven and earth, you must not misunderstand him. Hearing Steward's son's marriage proposal, Mayan's memory finally recovers. Oh, so it was that prince who wanted to marry her as a concubine. In the end, that guy Di Mingju just happened to come looking for her, and his neck was magnificently broken. The shock that Di Mingju gave her at that time was so deep that she forgot that a Wangye had once proposed marriage to her. Seeing Mu Yan's sudden realization, the middle-aged man's expression could not help but stiffen. Jin Wangye of Huangyao Country, that is an outstanding and famous figure in the entire Yanwu continent. What kind of woman wasn't easy for him to get? Moreover, after he usually takes a fancy to a woman, Jin Wangye would turn his head and get tired of playing with her, throwing her to the back of his mind. But this Miss June was a complete exception. Not a single one of the teams that the prince had sent out to ask for her hand in marriage had returned. They had disappeared without a trace. It took them a long time to find out that that group of people had died, and they had died in Junji drugstore. Then there was their prince's obsession with Miss June. At first, he only searched for beauties. Chapter 379. Unfortunately, this Miss June has completely forgotten about their Wangye's marriage proposal. But what kind of person is this embroidered middle-aged man? What kind of great winds and waves has he not seen? He quickly adjusts his expression and says with a smile, Miss June, we have come with full sincerity to invite you to the Fu for a chat. Please don't refuse. Mayan looks at them with a smile that isn't a smile. What if I insist on refusing? The middle-aged man's eyes deepen, his tone becoming more and more respectful. But the words he says make Mayan frown for the first time. Our Wangye has taken a fancy to Miss June. In any case, we wouldn't dare to make a move against Mississippi, but there's one thing that I hope Miss June knows. Our Wangye has always been on good terms with Qi Yan's royal family. This time, we accidentally ran into Qi Yan's Third Highness, so we specifically invited him to Jin Wangfu to have a good chat with Wangye. Mayan's eyes slowly narrow, her whole body emitting a dangerous light. You've caught Liu Beiyu. In her heart, she can't help but lament for this stupid apprentice. What kind of fate is this? Getting caught at every turn, threatened, or even made a cuckold. This stupid apprentice's 8 characters shouldn't be innately evil, right? Seeing Mayan's expression, the middle-aged man can't help but laugh. How could it be called a capture? We're just inviting His Highness to be a guest, that's all. Of course, if Miss June doesn't want to go back with us. Then whether His Highness is a guest or a prisoner, this one doesn't dare to guarantee. Mayan's eyes focus, and her figure suddenly disappears. The middle-aged man's expression changes. In the time it takes for a spark to fly off a flint, he only feels a breeze brushing past his face. The next moment, a hand as white as jade has already gently pinched his neck. The middle-aged man widens his eyes in horror, looking at the beautiful face that's within reach, his face full of disbelief. When did she come over? Why didn't he see her movements clearly just now? The middle-aged man instinctively operates the mysterious energy within his body, wanting to fight back. He's a strong person at the peak of heaven stage. It's reasonable to say that June Mayan, a girl who's not even in her 20s, can't possibly be his opponent. But when he operates his mysterious energy, he shockingly finds that his mysterious energy seems to be sucked away by a huge force. Like a clay ox entering the sea, it disappeared without a trace. The shock in the middle-aged man's heart was like a monstrous tidal wave. Who is this June Mayan? Could he be stronger than her? A young girl was stronger than him. What kind of cultivation was that? Could it be innate stage? How was this possible? With such talent, isn't she 10,000 times more powerful than Jingqing country's Princess Chenxue? The middle-aged man was bewildered and couldn't help but want to gather his dark force and counterattack again. However, the hands around his neck suddenly let go. The girl's figure suddenly retreated like a cloud of smoke, and then leisurely stood still. All right, I have no choice but to accept your threat. I'll follow you back to Huangyao country. The middle-aged man stares blankly, looking at Mayan in disbelief. An ominous premonition arose in his heart. If Jin Wangya insists on marrying this woman, wouldn't it be the arrival of a catastrophe instead? But very quickly, he shook his head and shook off this thought, bowing and saying, Miss June, please, the carriage is already waiting at the entrance of the alley. From here to Huangyao country, it will take us at most 3 days to reach there. The author has something to say. Chapter 380. Mayan slowly nods, her long eyelashes drooping down. She looks like a weak and harmless girl, too weak to stand up to the wind. What kind of great threat is there? The middle-aged man immediately throws that ominous thought to the back of his mind. A less than 20 years old pre-celestial, how is that possible? His eyes must have been blurred just now, and his senses must have made a mistake. That's why he had such an absurd idea. The middle-aged man lets people escort Mayan to the carriage, and he takes his men to clean up the traces left behind. According to the information investigated, there is a very powerful man at Mayan's side. Steward's son was killed by that man. Although Jin Wangya's Fu isn't afraid of anyone, it's better to have less trouble. As long as Wangya and Miss June are married, what's done is done, what's done is done. Even if Miss June had a lover before, what's the matter? It's not the first time that his Wangya has snatched a woman from another man. Things that are snatched are always especially interesting. After cleaning up all the traces, the middle-aged man complacently leaves with his men. The whole alley is quiet, as if no one has been there. Jin Wangfu. Wangya, don't drive us away, we are willing to serve you for the rest of our lives. Wangya, I beg you. Wangya, the sun and moon can attest to Shangxiang's feelings for you. How can Shangxiang live without you? Even if a new Wangfei enters the door, we will be obedient and not make the new Wangfei unhappy. I beg Wangya, don't drive us away. Woo. Outside the courtyard, the sound of several women's heartbroken cries can be heard. But inside the room, a tall and handsome man is leaning on the bed, holding a cup of wine in his hand and sipping tea. There's not a trace of emotion on his face. Jin Wangya, didn't you hear that your lovely wife and beautiful concubine are sobbing, reluctant to part with you? You actually have a heart of stone, you don't know how to have tender and protective feelings for the fairer sex. Not far from the man, sits a handsome youth. If Mayan were here, she would certainly recognize that this person is Liu Beiyu, who has been missing for several days. And the man on the bed is naturally Jin Wangya of Huangyao country. Listening to Liu Beiyu's words, Jin Wangya chuckles, how can these vulgar women be compared to Mayan? If Ben Wang doesn't drive these people out, how can I show my determination to marry Mayan? Stop dreaming. Liu Beiyu could no longer control his emotions. With a flushed face, he angrily says, how could my master marry someone like you? You're practically a toad lusting after swan meat. Being provoked like this, Jin Wangya's eyes flash with a trace of obvious indignation. However, it very quickly turns into an invasion overflowing with interest. The harder it is to obtain a woman, the more interested this prince is. Not to mention a woman like June Mayan, who can refine godly drafts, a woman of the highest quality that can revive the dead and regrow flesh and bones. Liu Beiyu clenches his teeth and says, "Do you think that just relying on Jin Wangfu's trash, they can take my master away? I know that June Mayan's cultivation isn't low." Jin Wangye smiles meaningfully, "But don't I still have you in my hands? You're June Mayan's only disciple. Knowing that her disciple is in trouble, tell me, would she not come to save you? You want to use me to threaten master." Liu Beiyu gets so angry that he suddenly stands up, the tea in his hand ruthlessly splashing towards Jin Wangye. However, a white shadow flashed before his eyes. Chapter 381. Liu Beiyu glares at the man blocking in front of Jin Wangye. He sees that his expression is cold, but his face is incomparably handsome, gentle like jade. The temperament around him makes people feel like they can't take their eyes off him. The person in front of him is actually the former #1 genius of Yanwu continent, the dustless swordsman, Bai Chen. Liu Beiyu can't understand it. How could the world's #1 gongzi be reduced to Jin Wangye's lackey? "Liu Beiyu, seeing that you're her apprentice, I won't kill you. But you'd better obediently stay here and participate in Ben Wang and Mu Yan's wedding. Otherwise, don't blame Ben Wang for making you wish you were dead, unable to die." Liu Beiyu's actions clearly make Jin Wangye angry. He waves his hand and says, "Bai Chen, take him away and keep a good watch over him. He must not be allowed to run away. When Mu Yan arrives, she can't find out where he is." Bai Chen gives a slight bow, his voice faint, "Yes, Wangye." Then, regardless of Liu Beiyu's ruckus, he directly carries him away. Walking out of the entrance of the Wangfu, a cold glint flashes through Bai Chen's eyes. In the end, all the women of Jin Wangfu are dragged out. The Wangfu that was originally crammed full of orioles and swallows is suddenly emptied out. The servants serving in the Wangfu have all heard that Wangye is doing all this in order to welcome the real Jin Wangfei. And the identity of this Jin Wangfei simply makes the maids and guards of the Wangfu extremely curious. It should be known that Jin Wangye has been a tyrant for so many years. When has he not been surrounded by orioles and swallows, embracing women on his left and right? How could he possibly dismiss his concubines for a woman? What is this Wangfei's identity? Could it be that she's a princess from some country? What's a princess? Even Gong Qinshue, the #1 genius of Yanwu continent, can't be compared to our new Wangfei. Who is the new Wangfei? Do you know about the filter of barrier breaking that's currently being auctioned at a sky-high price in the Ghost City? Of course I know. I heard that it can't be bought even with 10 million gold coins. That draft was refined by our new Wangfei. Also, that Enchantress, who is currently in the limelight in Tianyuan City, is also our new Wangfei. Everyone who heard the news was shocked beyond words. Thus, when the carriages arrived at the main gate, many maids and manservants couldn't help but sneak out to take a look. The curtain of the carriage was lifted. A young girl in a plain blue dress slowly walked down. The moment they see her, whether it's Jin Wangye, who is standing at the door to greet them, the guards behind him, or the servants hiding in the shadows, all of them simultaneously suck in a mouthful of cold air. So beautiful. Captivating birds and beasts, overshadowing the moon and putting flowers to shame, these words were not enough to describe this girl's exceptional beauty. Someone even thought to himself, it's no wonder that Jin Wangye dismissed his concubines. After seeing such a stunning woman, how could other common rouge and powder enter his eyes? After being stunned and infatuated, Jin Wangye suddenly comes back to his senses. He takes 2 or 3 steps forward to grab Mu Yan's hand. "Mu Yan, Ben Wang has finally waited for you." Mu Yan unhurriedly takes a step back. The range of his movements isn't big, but he manages to avoid Jin Wangye's hand. She looked at the man in front of her nonchalantly and sneered, "Excuse me, who are you? I don't think I know you that well. Are you allowed to call me Yen?" Ga. Chapter 382. Is there something wrong with this girl's head? She actually dares to be this disrespectful to their Wang Ye. Doesn't she know that Jean Wang Ye is famous for being temperamental, ruthless and ruthless? Jean Wang Ye's handsome face distorts for a moment. A man immediately steps forward from behind him, angrily saying, "How dare you? This is Huang Yao's Jean Wang Ye, how can you be so presumptuous? So you're Jean Wang Ye?" Mayan raises her eyebrows. "So, you're saying that you captured my apprentice and threatened me to come here?" The girl's voice is like a silver bell, with traces of clear jade and ice crystals. Listening to it, it makes people's hearts melt. Jean Wang Ye once again reveals what he considers to be a gentle and refined smile. "Ben Wang invited Mayan here because I admire you, and hope to live together with you. How could it be a threat? Live together?" Mayan sneers, "You want me to be your side consort, live together?" Jean Wang Ye's face immediately shows deep affection. He steps forward, wanting to pull Mayan into his embrace. "I won't hide it from you, ever since Ben Wang saw Mayan, I've been captivated and couldn't forget her." In Ben Wang's eyes, the rest of the common rouge and powder are already unable to enter. Marrying you as a side consort was just my housekeeper acting on his own initiative. The sun and moon can attest to Mayan's heart. For you, Ben Wang has dismissed all the women in Jin Wangfu. Our wedding will be arranged in 7 days. At that time, you will be Ben Wang's official Wang Fei. Once you and I are married, Ben Wang will take you into the palace to meet my imperial brother. Although you're only from the lowest small country, Qi Yan, as long as you show off your talents in alchemy and medicine, I believe that my Huang Yao country would also be willing to recognize your identity as Jin Wang Fei. For a commoner woman from the lowest Qi Yan country, becoming a Wang Fei recognized by the emperor of Huang Yao country is tantamount to reaching the sky in a single bound. When he says these words, Jin Wang Ye has great confidence that Mayan will shed tears of gratitude. With a pleasantly surprised face, she throws herself into his embrace, turning into a soft embrace. There's an aloof expression in his eyes, as if he's giving alms. He thinks that he's doing Mayan a huge favor. But Mayan can't help but burst out laughing. Although the girl's smile was as bright as a flower. However, the ridicule and contempt in that smile makes Jin Wang Ye's face distort once again. And Mayan's next sentence makes his expression instantly turn sinister. "It's not dark yet. Your Highness is already dreaming." Mayan's eyes turn cold, sneering, "Your brain is not good, Your Excellency should go back and take more medicine to nourish yourself, lest a dignified Wang Ye comes out to make a fool of himself." Jin Wang Ye's eyes are frighteningly cold. His figure suddenly disappeared, and a powerful Xian Qi spread out. The surrounding Jin Wangfu guards, including the middle-aged man at the peak of heaven stage who escorted Mayan over, all turned deathly pale with fright. In the blink of an eye, he had already appeared in front of Mu Yen and reached out to strangle her neck. However, just when everyone thinks that Mayan will perish under Jin Wang Ye's hands, Jin Wang Ye's figure and movements come to an abrupt halt. Mu Yen raises her slender jade hand, and between her slender fingers, there's a silver needle that's flickering with light. At the tip of the silver needle, there's a faintly discernible light blue radiance. The corners of Mayan's mouth gently curl up, as if she's casually gossiping. Jin Wang Ye had just said that I'm a draft apothecary. Take a guess, what kind of draft did I smear on this silver needle? Chapter 383. The silver needle in his neck was too close, almost less than an inch away. The cold air on the needle seemed to be slowly eroding his skin. Jin Wang Ye's complexion alternates between green and white. In his eyes, Jun Mayan is the woman he fancies. He could pamper and cherish her, but he could also knead her as he pleased. However, he was being threatened by this woman in front of him, and in public, he was in a dilemma. Jin Wangye takes a deep breath, and only then does he force himself to suppress his gushing anger. He slowly takes a step back. A refined smile slowly hangs on his originally distorted face. Mayan, what are you doing? This prince wants to marry you because he truly loves you. Why must you be so heartless? After a pause, his lips curled into a cruel smile. What's more, even if Mayan is heartless towards this king, she wouldn't go so far as to be heartless towards the young prince of Qi Yan country, your disciple, right? Mayan narrows her eyes, a chill looming in her beautiful peach blossom eyes. Jin Wangye wants to use my apprentice to threaten me. So what if I am? Jin Wangye gazes deeply at Mayan's absolutely beautiful face, his face full of aggression and greed. The woman that Ben Wang wants, has never been unable to obtain. But he smiled, and a folding fan appeared in his hand. He unfolded it and waved it gently. However, a melon that is forced is not sweet. Ben Wang will not force Mu Yan to be with me, but Ben Wang wants Mu Yan to stay here for 7 days. Mu Yan won't refuse, right? After 7 days, Ben Wang guarantees that if Mayan is still unwilling, you and Qi Yan's little prince will be safely sent back to Tianyuan City. Mu Yan sneers inwardly. Who was this guy trying to fool? They would really be released after 7 days. However, he couldn't ignore his stupid disciple's life. In any case, she still has to enter this Jin Wangfu. Just as Mayan is about to speak, she suddenly sees a familiar figure coming out of the Wangfu, standing by Jin Wangye's side. The man's cold and gentle voice sounded, Wangye, the matter you ordered, has been completed. When Mu Yan saw the person who came, her pupils slightly contracted. It was actually Bai Chen. Why was he here? Coincidentally, Bai Chen also turned to look at him discreetly. Their gazes met, and their eyes rippled. Mayan's heart slightly sinks. Before Jin Wangye can notice the abnormality between the two of them, she quickly withdraws her gaze and slowly says, since that's the case, then I'll have to disturb Jin Wangye. After Mayan is taken away by the maidservant to rest, Jin Wangye can no longer bear the anger in his heart. There was an ear-piercing shattering sound. The cup on the table was smashed to the ground. A cold and gloomy voice spits out from his thin lips, good Jun Mayan. Just you wait, this king will definitely make you crawl under my feet and beg me to pamper you. Your Highness, please calm down. The middle-aged man who brought Mayan back takes a step forward and says respectfully, I think that Miss Jun's harsh words might not be because she doesn't adore you, but because she feels that she's not worthy of you. Jin Wangye coldly looks over, not saying anything. Whether it was love or not, he had eyes. How could he not see it? The middle-aged man revealed a meaningful smile. Your Highness has sent someone to investigate Miss Jun's information. You should know that Miss Jun was once pregnant out of wedlock and now has a 4-year-old son. Chapter 384. Hearing this, Jin Wangye's complexion finally improves a little. He opens the folding fan in his hand and gently waves it. Ben Wang naturally already knew that she had a child. However, this woman, Jun Mayan, is very remarkable. Just her ability to refine medicine and her medical skills alone, if Ben Wang could tie her to my side, it would be of great benefit. Not to mention that this woman also has a devastatingly beautiful appearance. That slim waist, that perfectly curved figure, it makes his lower abdomen tighten even more when he thinks of it, wishing that he could immediately taste the taste of an ecstatic corpse. The middle-aged man also nods, then smiles sinisterly. Therefore, this subordinate believes that Miss Jun refused to marry Wangye. Firstly, she feels that she is no longer pure, and is not worthy of Wangye. Secondly, it should be because of that son of hers. This subordinate believes that as long as that son of hers is eliminated, all of Miss June's thoughts will be cut off. When the time comes, Miss June will definitely be willing to marry Wang Ye. At that time, she might even give birth to an intelligent young master for Wang Ye. Hearing the words, eliminate that son of hers, Jin Wang Ye's nose slightly shrinks. His eyes bloom with a cruel and jealous light. That's right, because of June Mayan's uniqueness, he doesn't mind that this woman once had a child. But when he remembers that this girl was once possessed by another man, he still feels resentment and disgust in his heart. Especially June Mayan's son. As long as he sees him, he will remember the fact that this woman once belonged to another man. If he can take this opportunity to eliminate him, and also cut off all of June Mayan's escape routes, that would really be the best. Jin Wang Ye tilts his head and looks over, slowly saying, I'll leave this matter to you. Please rest assured, Wang Ye. The middle-aged man shows a confident smile. It's just an insignificant child. If this subordinate can't handle it, then this subordinate would have no face to see Wang Ye. Within 7 days, this subordinate will definitely rush over to attend Wang Ye and the new Wang Fei's wedding. Late at night, the moon is dark and the wind is strong. The entire Jin Wangfu has sunk into silence. But Mayan is leisurely sitting in the darkness, pouring herself a cup of tea from time to time. Not far from her, several maids and guards that Jin Wangfu specially sent to watch over her are sleeping like dead pigs, snoring loudly. Suddenly, the door creaked. The silvery moonlight shone in through the window, accompanied by a tall figure dressed in white. Mu Yan couldn't help but raise the corner of her mouth. How have you been, Bai Chen? Bai Chen paused for a moment, then gently closed the door. How did you get targeted by Jin Wang Ye? Why are you here? Both of them blurted out at the same time. Bai Chen's ice-cold eyes are slightly tinged with warmth. He quietly walks over to Mu Yan and sits down. In the darkness, he looks at Mayan's face, his eyes very focused. But his line of sight seemed to pierce through Mu Yan, looking into the distant past. Long time no see, Mayan. Ever since he helped Lin Sitong collect her remains in the dense fog forest, he had decided to embark on this path. He had almost forgotten the life he once had and the happiness he once had. Now that he saw Mayan, he suddenly recalled that final tranquility. Chapter 385. After leaving Sitong's grave in the fog forest, I've been looking for an opportunity to kill Gong Qinxue, but there's no way. Bai Chen's mouth hooks up into a self-deprecating smile. After investigating Gong Qinxue, I found out how deep her influence is, and how sinister and frightening her methods are. Even Jingqing Country's ghost city has almost fallen into her hands. Relying on my own strength, even if I were to stake the entire Ziyang sect, I still wouldn't be able to contend against her. What's more, how could I be willing to stake my sect? Mayan's heart moves, suddenly lowering her voice. You discovered that Jin Wang Ye and Gong Qinxue are related? That's right. Bai Chen's eyes flash with a cold light. Jin Wang Ye appears to be a debauchee Wang Ye who doesn't care about anything, but in fact, he's a disciple of Tiandao sect. His position in Tiandao sect isn't lower than Gong Qinxue's. I also found out that many of Gong Qinxue's actions have Jin Wang Ye's shadow. That's because he knows that he can't fight Gong Qinxue with just hatred and solitary courage. That's why Bai Chen thought of approaching the core of Gong Qinxue's power through Jin Wang Ye, and finally give her a fatal blow. When Mayan fought with Jin Wang Ye's middle-aged man that day, she noticed that the way his mysterious energy operates is inextricably linked to Tiandao sect. That's why she readily followed them here. Mayan deeply looks at the man in front of her. Wuchen Gongzi Bai Chen is a famous handsome man in Yanwu continent, gentle as jade, handsome and elegant. When they first met, Bai Chen was cold and silent, but his whole body was still filled with a warm aura. But now, there's only deep-rooted hatred and coldness left in those eyes. As if there's no longer a trace of human emotion. However, she remembers Lin Sidong, Bai Chen's lover, who died tragically in Gong Qinshue's hands. Mayan can't help but sigh deeply, her mood inevitably somewhat heavy. She understands Bai Chen's desire to avenge his fiancé. But she's also worried for this man. Because the enemy is too strong, and Bai Chen has already completely resolved to perish together, to avenge Lin Sidong's death. However, as the words of consolation reach her mouth, Mayan ultimately swallows them back. Since that perverted prince is your target, I'll spare his life for now. Mu Yan's voice was careless, as if taking the life of the powerful Wang Ye was nothing more than a small matter to her. But do you know where my stupid disciple is right now? Deep gratitude flashed in Bai Chen's eyes, but he didn't say anything. Qi Yan country's third prince Liu Beiyu. Mu Yan sighed and said, if it wasn't that idiot, who else could it be? A smile flashed across Bai Chen's eyes. If he's the one you're looking for, I think I can take you to see him now. The place where Liu Beiyu is imprisoned is a very secret dungeon in Jin Wangfu. The entrance to the dungeon was under a well. Without Bai Chen's guidance, it would not be easy for Mu Yan to find her stupid apprentice. The two of them quietly fell into the well. Bai Chen lowers his voice and says, the guards in the dungeon are all Jin Wangfu's most elite death soldiers. Jin Wangye seems to trust me, but my every move is also under the surveillance of these men of death. Chapter 386. The corners of Mu Yan's mouth lightly hooks up, smiling carelessly, why bother? Saying that, under Bai Chen's flabbergasted gaze, she takes out a porcelain bottle. The cover of the dungeon's entrance is lifted, and Mu Yan places her palm on the porcelain bottle, slowly activating her mysterious energy. Soon, a wisp of white smoke curls out of the porcelain bottle, winding its way into the dungeon. After about the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, Mu Yan tosses the bottle away and claps her hands, all right, let's go in. Wait, you'll be discovered. Before Bai Chen could finish saying, discovered, he sees a scene that makes him dumbstruck. All the guards in the dungeon have fallen to the ground one by one, sleeping like dead pigs. Each and every one of these guards has a cultivation above the peak of Earth stage. The two at the front even have a higher cultivation than Bai Chen. And such a group of death warriors, who could make people's faces change just by talking about them, can't even hold on for the time it takes to drink a cup of tea under Mu Yan's draft. Bai Chen gasps in amazement, and he also realizes why Jin Wangye, knowing that Mu Yan is unwilling, knowing that she has a child, still insisted on marrying her as his Wangfei. The entire dungeon has been emptied out by Mu Yan's bottle of draft. The two quickly find the locked-up Liu Beiyu. They see him lying on the bed, sleeping on his back, snoring softly, and a suspicious liquid flowing out of the corner of his mouth. A smile slowly spreads across Mu Yan's face. Bai Chen sees the bright and beautiful smile on the girl's face, but he feels a chill, and he can't help but take a step back. The next moment, there's a bang. Liu Beiyu, who is sleeping without a care in the world, is directly kicked out of the bed, and he falls like a dog eating mud. Who is it? That son of a bitch dares to sneak up on this prince. Liu Beiyu jumps up from the ground, shouting loudly as he assumes an attacking stance. Smack! A palm slaps the back of his head. A sweet female voice faintly reaches his ears, who are you calling a son of a bitch? When Liu Beiyu hears the voice, his whole body stiffens. Then he suddenly turns around. Liu Beiyu's eyes redden when he sees the girl's beautiful face right in front of him. Moss. Master. Is that you? I'm not dreaming, right? Mu Yan looks at him with a smile that isn't a smile. I saw that you were quite happy in your dream just now. Sob, sob, sob. Master, master, you've finally come to save me. Your disciple is so scared. That Jin Wangye is a pervert. Master, you mustn't marry that pervert. I don't want that kind of shameless master. Liu Beiyu pounces over and hugs Mayan's calf, crying his heart out. Mu Yan lifts her foot and kicks it away in disgust. All right, stop howling. I'm warning you, this is the last time I'm going to save you. If you're so useless next time and someone else catches you. Liu Beiyu's eyes are brimming with tears. Master, you will save me, right? Mu Yan coldly squints at him, sneering, you guess. Liu Beiyu shudders, then continues to howl dryly. Am I not an undeserved calamity? That Jin Wangye caught me, isn't it because he adores you, master? Cough, cough, but master, you wouldn't really be threatened by that Jin Wangye to marry him, right? Don't. This disciple's head can be broken and blood can flow, but master's lifelong happiness absolutely cannot be ruined. Chapter 387. Speaking of which, Liu Beiyu is still an Earth stage practitioner. His innate talent is naturally good. It's just a pity that his interests and hobbies aren't in cultivation at all, to the extent that his cultivation doesn't advance, but instead regresses. Don't, master. Liu Beiyu suddenly lets out a mournful wail. That guy Yan Haotian's training is completely inhuman, and the final test of the ink camp isn't something that a human can pass. If this disciple goes, I won't be able to come back. Master, please spare me. This disciple will definitely cultivate properly in the future. Liu Beiyu chases after Mayan all the way, crying and begging, but it's a pity that Mayan completely ignores him. Only when they're on the ground, afraid of attracting Jin Wangye's attention, does he shut his mouth. But he's sobbing all the way, looking at Mayan from time to time with tears of grievance in his eyes. The three people quietly arrive at the side door of the backyard. Mayan looks at Bai Chen. You must be careful if you stay by Jin Wangye's side alone. His strength is stronger than you think, you must not fight recklessly. Remember to always carry the life-saving draft that I gave you. You must remember, only by keeping your life, can you avenge your fiancé one day. Bai Chen slowly nods. You should leave quickly. Mayan is just about to turn around. Suddenly, she hears the clanging of bamboo wood. That's the night watchman announcing the time on the street outside. It's already the midnight hour. Mayan's hand slowly presses on the door bolt, about to use mysterious energy to break it. Suddenly, a violent tremor came from her heart and aura. Mayan's brows wrinkle, beads of sweat instantly appear on her forehead. The hand that was originally pressing on the door also softly hangs down. Thump, thump, thump. She hears the violent beating of her own heart, as well as the faint sound of a zither. An indescribable burning pain spreads through her limbs and bones. This kind of pain penetrates the skin and bones, and it's also somewhat familiar. Mayan, what's wrong? Master, why is your complexion so bad? Don't scare me. Mayan slowly raises her head with difficulty, and looks towards the east of Jin Wangfu. There stands a tower there, and at the top of the tower, there seems to be a silver-white light flickering like it's breathing. And Mayan can clearly sense the Tian Mo Qin within her body. It was playing on its own, and the rhythm of the music resonated with the flickering light. That's right. She remembered. Why did she feel this pain was so familiar? This kind of pain, as if it wants to tear her whole body apart, isn't it exactly the same as when she made the Tian Mo Qin recognize her as its master? In Mu Yan's mind, Bailey Inlo's words suddenly resounded. There is one thing you must remember, the Shin musician's most powerful skill can only be realized through the Tian Mo Qin. Therefore, if you want to become a real Shin musician, you must repair the Tian Mo Qin. Therefore, the Tian Mo Qin needs to be repaired. Could it be that, in this Jin Wangfu, by a freak combination of factors, there just happens to be something that can restore the Tian Mo Qin? Just as he was thinking about this, suddenly, a white light shot towards Mu Yan from the top of the pagoda like a shooting star. Bai Chen and Liu Beiyu are startled. He instinctively rushed forward to help her block the attack. However, that streak of light was simply too fast. Even if Bai Chen was a heaven-rank advanced, he could only feel a gust of wind brushing past his face. That white light has already arrived in front of Mu Yan. Without waiting for the three people to react, it instantly stops in front of Mu Yan. Chapter 388. Seeing this thing, Bai Chen's eyes widened and he exclaimed, "Dragonlight Stone. Why would Dragonlight Stones appear here? What is a Dragonlight Stone?" Even Mu Yan raised her pale face to look at Bai Chen. Bai Chen takes a deep breath and says, "It is said that the Dragonlight Stone appeared in the Yanwu continent 1,000 years ago. At that time, there was a heavenly vision, falling into the fog forest, causing millions of people to scramble for it. In the end, everyone only found a gray stone at the place where the anomaly occurred. In the beginning, no one discovered the wonders of this stone. Until one night, when a martial artist was meditating beside the stone suddenly emitted a lustrous white light. As a result, that martial artist's cultivation advanced by leaps and bounds, breaking through a small realm in one night. Since then, people have been fighting over this stone and named it the Dragonlight Stone. But a few hundred years ago, the Dragonlight Stone disappeared. I also saw these records and drawings in Ziyang Zong's secret scrolls, but I didn't expect that the Dragonlight Stone that everyone fought over at that time would actually be in Jin Wangya's hands." Liu Beiyu looks at the dragon-dazzling stone that is emitting a soft light, then looks at Mayan. Then why did this dragon-dazzling stone suddenly fly in front of Master? Could it be that it wants to recognize Master as its master? But Mu Yan is well aware of it. Of course, the Dragonlight Stone didn't want to recognize him as its master. Instead, it wants to return to its original form, the Tian Mo Qin. If she's not mistaken, this Dragonlight Stone should be a piece of material that was split off from the Tian Mo Qin. She recalled the markings on the map. The mark on the Yanwu continent is particularly close to the fog forest. But she couldn't find it even after searching for a long time. Now that he thought about it, it must be because the Dragonlight Stone was taken away by someone. Buzz buzz buzz. Clang clang clang. The deafening sound of the zither echoed in his ears. The entire space trembled. It's obvious that the Tian Mo Qin can't wait any longer, so it impatiently urges Mayan to quickly fetch the Dragonlight Stone. Mu Yan takes a deep breath and slowly stretches out her hand. When her fingertips came into contact with the Dragonlight Stone, a resplendent light suddenly lit up. The Dragonlight Stone instantly turned into a meteor and flew into her body. Ugh! A tearing pain came from his body. The pain was several times more intense than before, causing Mu Yan to finally let out a muffled groan. Beads of sweat rolled down from her forehead. "Master, what's wrong?" Mu Yan's body is on the verge of collapse. If it weren't for Liu Beiyu's support, perhaps she would have already fallen down. "Help me back to the house first." Mayan tries her best to suppress the pain in her body, and says in a weak voice, "Liu Beiyu, I'm afraid I can't take you back for the time being." "Master, what are you talking about? It doesn't matter if this disciple leaves or not, as long as Master is fine." Liu Beiyu is so anxious that he's about to cry. "Master, are you all right?" There was something, but it was a good thing. Because she couldn't find a way to repair the Tian Mo Qin, Mu Yan has always been worried. She still firmly remembered what Bailey Yinlu had said before she disappeared. Only by restoring the Tian Mo Qin can she truly advance to the point where she can leave this Yanwu continent. As for Xiao Bao, only by leaving the Yanwu continent can he grow up healthily and happily. The only depressing thing is that the Tian Mo Qin, whether it's recognizing a master or repairing it, is an incomparably painful process. Chapter 389. Supported by Bai Chen and Liu Beiyu, Mu Yan returns to the room that Jin Wangya has prepared for her. His original escape plan could only be temporarily postponed. The two of them confirmed it several times. After Mu Yan repeatedly assured them that there would be no problems, they left and stood guard outside the door. As soon as Bai Chen and Liu Beiyu leave, Mu Yan immediately impatiently enters the space. The originally gray Tian Mo Qin floats in the air, its body turning crimson once again. It was like blood jade, but it was thousands of times more resplendent and beautiful. 7-colored light filled the entire space, causing the grassland houses in the space to shake gently like illusions. The fat rabbit also woke up from its deep sleep. A pair of mung bean-like eyes stare unblinkingly at the Tian Mo Qin in the void. His chubby body trembles slightly because of his instinctive fear, but his eyes are filled with awe. Is this the most precious treasure of the three realms, the unique Tian Mo Qin? Is this the true coercion of the Tian Mo Qin? It was truly powerful and terrifying. It turns to look at Mayan, its mung bean eyes glittering. At that time, it still felt that a mere mortal of the Yanwu continent wasn't worthy to be its master, not worthy to order him around. But now, he had to take back those words. To be able to control such a terrible Tian Mo Qin, to be able to make the Tian Mo Qin willingly bow its head in submission. This Jun Mayan is really worthy of being the little master's mother. No, it should be said that her innate talent is no less than the little master's. Mu Yan resists the pain and sits down cross-legged. Intense pain spread through her limbs and bones, and she felt as if all the bones in her body were about to melt. But perhaps it was because she had already experienced it once. Or perhaps, the restoration process wasn't as crazy as the process of recognizing a master. Therefore, Mu Yan felt that she could still bear it this time. As the internal force in her body revolves, most of the light emitted by the Tian Mo Qin begins to enter Mayan's body. 5-colored light flowed through her meridians, making her look like a goddess descending from the heavens. The rabbit blankly stares at Mayan for a while, then immediately begins to absorb the light emitted by the Tian Mo Qin. Such an opportunity to use the Tian Mo Qin's formidable divine power to forge the body might not even come by in a million years. As she absorbs more and more of the Tian Mo Qin's radiance, Mayan feels the pain in her body slowly diminish. Time passed slowly. After an unknown period of time. Clang, there's a sound, and the Tian Mo Qin falls from the sky. The light disappears, returning to its original gray appearance. No, it was still very different from before. The original Tian Mo Qin looks like an old piece of wood, dark and glossy, as if it could rot and break at any time. But now, the Tian Mo Qin's body is as smooth as a mirror, and there's even a faint dark silver pattern on top. It made the zither look ancient yet luxurious. One look and you could tell it was worth a fortune. Mayan opens her eyes and sees the Tian Mo Qin that has fallen in front of her. She knows that he has finished repairing it. The air in the space, which was originally fresh, now became incomparably fragrant. Her body was filled with a huge amount of energy, which made her feel a little overwhelmed. Mayan shakes her head and reaches out to touch the Tian Mo Qin. Buzz! The zither strings vibrated, and the sound of the zither rang out. It was more beautiful than before, clearer and more distant than before. But in the next moment, a sudden change occurred. With Mayan's touch as the center, the entire Tian Mo Qin suddenly splits into countless cracks like a spider's web. The crack grew larger and larger, and then a silver light surged out like an avalanche, abruptly entering Mu Yan's body. Chapter 390. The sudden and severe pain makes Mu Yan unable to bear it any longer, and she lets out a mournful wail. Immediately after, the space disintegrates and disappears, and Mu Yan reappears in the room. Even the fat rabbit is forced to roll down at her feet, cutting a sorry figure. Master! Mu Yan! The door to the room is pushed open with a bang, and Liu Beiyu and Bai Chen burst in. What they see is Mu Yan's entire body dripping with blood, her complexion deathly pale, and unconscious. Liu Beiyu is so scared that he almost kneels on the ground. He scrambles to rush in front of Mu Yan. Tears streamed down her face. Master, Master, what's wrong? Even the usually calm Bai Chen has a change in expression. Mu Yan, how could this be? What's going on? However, Mu Yan, who has completely fainted, how could she still hear their voices and answer their questions? The two panic-stricken people completely don't notice that outside the room, under the night sky, between the three realms, earth-shaking changes are happening little by little. The only one who notices is the fat rabbit, who has recovered from his dizziness. It looks out the window at the changing sky. Then it looks at the unconscious Mu Yan. A little bit of astonishment, shock, and disbelief emerge in the Mung Bean's eyes. How is this possible? In the Yenmu continent, there's no spiritual power, no heaven and earth's vitality, yet someone has molded their own spiritual root. Moreover, it's actually not an ordinary spiritual root. But it's unique between heaven and earth, Tianyuan City, Junji Medical Center. Even when he's bathing, Di Mingju doesn't let go of the opportunity to train Xiao Bao. For humans, the water is the most natural adversity. In the end, will they break through the bottleneck, or will they be crushed by the limit? It's the place that can test and temper a person's state of mind. Xiao Bao rushes out of the water, gasping for air. His fair and tender little face is flushed, and his face shows extreme exhaustion. But his eyes are bright, unblinking as he looks at Di Mingju. Di Mingju raises his hand, and a blanket that's several times bigger than Xiao Bao's body wraps around his little body. The man's lazy and cold voice slowly rings out, 2 hours, not bad. Today's training ends here. Saying that, he stoops to pick up Xiao Bao along with the blanket, and walks out of the bath. This time, Xiao Bao obediently let him hug him. Her short little hands are still hugging Di Mingju's neck. A pair of blue eyes, exactly the same as Di Mingju's, softly blinks. His eyelashes, which are as dense and long as small fans, are stained with a wet mist. She looked especially adorable. Her long eyelashes fluttered, and Xiao Bao could not help but ask, will Xiao Bao become as strong as you one day? Di Mingju glances at him, and reaches out to wipe the water stains off his face with a blanket. Although his movements were clumsy, there was a trace of gentleness that was hard to detect. As long as you train well, you will naturally be able to. The man's voice is indifferent, but it's a matter of course. You're my, Di Mingju's, son. If you're not strong enough, wouldn't you lose Ben Jun's face? Xiao Bao opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something, but he didn't say anything in the end. Although he was young, he knew. The man in front of him was not his real father. Nyingqin had also never mentioned who his real father was. In the past, Xiao Bao didn't care at all whether he had a father or not. But at this moment, a trace of sadness and longing welled up in his little heart. Chapter 391. The two of them put on their clothes and walked out. Han Yi and Ing Mei hold Xiao Bao's Di Mingju once again. There's no longer any shock on their faces. Hee, ever since Jun Shang met Miss Jun, is there anything impossible that he hasn't done before? What's there to be surprised about? Greetings, Lord, greetings, young master. Xiao Bao struggles for a bit, then jumps down from Di Mingju's arms and goes to Mu Yan's room. Nyangqin, Nyangqin. The little hand hasn't pushed open the door yet, but the cry has already slipped out. He hadn't seen his mother for 7 days, and he didn't have time to get along with her today. He missed his mother very much. Young master, wait a minute. Han Yi couldn't help but speak up to stop her. Soon after, he embarrassedly says, Miss June went out early in the morning and hasn't returned yet. They only discovered it after Mayan had left for a long time. 2 experts from the Shushan continent, under orders to guard a mortal of the Yinwu continent. In the end, they didn't even know when he had left. Han Yi feels that he doesn't have the face to see Jun Shang. Ingmei directly knelt to the ground. This subordinate is incompetent, please punish me, Jun Shang. Di Mingju actually doesn't get angry. He just casually waves his hand, his voice cold and indifferent. Purgatory pool will add 1 more day. It was only 1 day. Han Yi and Ingmei simultaneously breathe a sigh of relief. In fact, they were not worried about Miss June. What kind of person is Miss June? She's a high pre-celestial. As long as she's in the Yinwu continent, her strength is so strong that even they can't deal with her. Who in this world could harm her? Xiao Bao immediately revealed a dejected expression. He thought that as soon as he came out, he would be able to throw himself into his mother's arms. Suddenly, the little body soared into the air. Di Mingju picks him up again. 2 small hands subconsciously wrap around Di Mingju's neck. By the time he's able to react, Di Mingju has already taken him out of the courtyard, heading towards the main street in the front yard. She couldn't help but ask, what are we going to do? Di Mingju glances at him, do you still need to ask? Of course it's to bring your mother home. Take my mother home. Xiao Bao muttered these words in his mind in a daze. A faint and restrained smile appeared on her blushing face. The 3 of them really looked like a family. When they were in the fog forest, Di Mingju had once kissed Mayan's vow. Because there's no spiritual power in the Yinwu continent, the effect of this promised kiss is very small. The range of his perception was also almost negligible. But if it was only in the same city, it was still very easy to find the fluctuation aura that Mu Yan had appeared in before with his divine sense. The 2 of them had originally thought that they would be able to find Mu Yan very quickly, and then the 3 of them would happily return. However, when the trail he was looking for reached a secluded alley, it finally disappeared without a trace. Di Mingju and Xiao Bao's complexions turned extremely unsightly at the same time. Mu Yan had disappeared, and all traces of her had been cleaned up starting from this alley. Even someone as powerful as Di Mingju. When one's spiritual sense could not be fully released, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens to find a person like a needle in a haystack. Mother will be fine. Xiao Bao clenched his fists tightly. His small face was cold and solemn, and his voice was incomparably calm. However, his body trembled slightly, revealing his panic and fear. Chapter 392. The people of the Junji Medical Center and the Emperor Garden are all dispatched. The whole of Tianyuan City is almost turned upside down. But there's still no trace of Mu Yan. The sky darkens little by little, until it's pitch black. Han Yi and Ning Mei's faces are full of remorse, wishing they could slap themselves to death. And the coldness coming from Di Mingju makes the 2 even more aghast. If they still can't find her, Jun Shang might completely release his divine sense. When that time comes, the entire Yinwu continent would be unable to withstand the extremely powerful energy, causing the sky to fall and the earth to crack. Jun Shang could only endure until now, because if the target of the vow's kiss is in danger, Jun Shang would be able to sense it. Just as Han Yi and Ning Mei are kneeling to beg for forgiveness, suddenly, a powerful mysterious energy fluctuation comes from the northeast corner of Tianyuan City. It seems to be accompanied by the sound of a house collapsing. That's the direction of the Shen family in Tianyuan City. Because they can't find Mu Yan anywhere, Shen Jinglin and Xiao Bao lead the people to the Shen family. Oh no, it's the little Gongzi. Han Yi and Ning Mei suddenly stand up, looking towards the direction of the energy fluctuation. Without waiting for them to move, Di Mingju's figure has already disappeared like lightning. Little master, be careful. Feng Haitang screams, her whole body pouncing forward, firmly blocking Xiao Bao behind her. She watches as the terrifying internal force attack is about to fall on her back. Suddenly, a figure flashes, and a broad man blocks in front of her. Bang! There's a loud noise as the man bears that powerful attack, and he suddenly spits out a mouthful of blood. Feng Haitang turns around, seeing the slowly falling figure, the rims of her eyes redden. Hao Tian! Hao Tian! How are you? Yan Haotian slowly opens his eyes in her arms. Seeing her tears trickling down, he couldn't help but reach out and gently wipe her face. Hee, I didn't expect that there would be so many crouching tigers and hidden dragons in such a small medical center. What's more, I didn't expect that a 4-year-old child would actually have such terrifying strength. Truly worthy of being a woman that Wang Ye fancies. If such a bloodline were to give birth to Wang Ye's son, I'm afraid that his talent would be even more unimaginable. Fortunately, I've never underestimated a little child, and I've brought enough manpower this time. Otherwise, we might really fail miserably. Not far away, a slightly chubby middle-aged man looked down at the few people in front of him. His face was filled with fear and excitement. This person is Jin Wang Ye's most capable and trusted aide, the leader of the Death Warriors, the Peak Heaven Stage Shu Hai. Beside him stood a few black-clothed men. Every one of them was at least heaven rank. More than half of them were heaven rank and above. In other words, half of the people here had higher cultivation bases than Xiao Bao. In the middle of the encirclement of these men of death, are the people of the Yin camp who have been beaten to the point of vomiting blood, and are practically unable to get up. If not, everyone in the Yin camp would be prepared with the life-saving drafts that Mayan had given them. It was likely that there were already several corpses here. Xiao Bao's little face is cold and solemn. He quickly takes out the draft and pours it into Yan Haotian's mouth. The vitality that had disappeared from Yan Haotian's body immediately began to slowly return. Seeing this scene, Zhu Hai's eyes burned hotter and hotter. There's actually such a miraculous life-saving draft in this world, haha. If these drafts all belong to Wang Ye in the future, there's no need to worry about not succeeding. How to get a steady stream of special drafts. Chapter 393. In this way, His Highness's imperial ambition was just around the corner. The more he thinks about it, the brighter Zhu Hai's eyes become. If it said that he was originally somewhat dissatisfied with a woman who has lost her innocence and has given birth to a child becoming Jin Wangfei, but now, he couldn't wait to hope that Jun Mayan could become their princess. Cough. Cough cough. Who are you people? Shen Jinglin climbed up from the ground and pulled Xiao Bao behind him, fiercely glaring at Zhu Hai. Why did you lay your hands on Xiao Bao and my Shen family? Zhu Hai disdainfully glanced at Shen Jinglin. How could he put a mere earth-rank martial artist in his eyes? His gaze flashed past little Bao who was behind Shen Jinglin, and a wisp of fear and dread flashed past his eyes. A 4-year-old child's cultivation was already at the heaven stage. Given time, if this person was allowed to live, he would definitely become a great threat to His Highness. The light in Zhu Hai's eyes darkens, a ruthless and malevolent killing intent emerges in his eyes. If you want to blame someone, then you can only blame him for being Jun Mayan's child. Our Jin Wangye intends to marry Miss June as his Wangfei. As the dignified Wangfei of Huangyao country, how could she have an illegitimate child who can't even be seen in public? So, we can only kill you before His Highness and the new princess get married. We have to erase your existence. Henceforth, Jin Wangfei is innocent. No one will know that she once had a son. Hearing Zhu Hai's words, Xiao Bao's eyes suddenly became like a little beast whose reverse scale had been touched. His icy blue eyes instantly turned slightly blood red. As he walked forward step by step, his thick profound energy, bringing along an icy cold aura, spread around his small body. As the distance between him and Zhu Hai grew shorter and shorter, a powerful and suffocating pressure came crashing down on them. Zhu Hai's expression abruptly changed. No, this is impossible. He's only a mid-tier heaven rank, and I'm at the peak of heaven rank. How could I be suppressed instead? He desperately circulated his Xian Qi, wanting to move, but his entire body seemed to be imprisoned by an invisible force. He couldn't move at all. The surrounding people were even more dumbfounded. That was because with every step Little Treasure took, the limestone beneath his feet would shatter inch by inch. A terrifying pressure spread in the air, causing the faces of the men in black to turn pale. Some of the weaker ones even had blood trickling down the corners of their mouths. All of this was caused by a 4-year-old child. Bang! The tiny palm pushed out in the air, and a profound energy that was as majestic as a violent gale and a huge wave directly attacked Zhu Hai. A loud sound accompanied by the sound of bones shattering assaulted everyone's eardrums. Dust and smoke rose in all directions, and gravel flew everywhere. There was also a strong smell of blood that permeated the tip of one's nose. When the dust settled, Zhu Hai's pale face was revealed. In front of him, there was a corpse that could not be any more dead than it already was. All the bones in Zhu Hai's body broke, and he vomited blood, dyeing the lower half of his body red. Zhu Hai looked at the corpse at his feet, then at Xiao Bao. He could no longer conceal the shock on his face. If he hadn't used the excruciating pain to break free from the pressure at the critical moment and dragged someone over to be his scapegoat, he would have died. Now, the one who died without a complete corpse was probably him. However, the person he used as a scapegoat was also a heaven stage advanced ranker. They are the elites among the elites of Jin Wangfu's death warriors. How could he die so easily in the hands of a child? Chapter 394. In the battle just now, he had already killed 3 early heaven stage black-clothed men. More than half of his profound qi had already been consumed. Earlier, in order to kill Zhu Hai, he had even used up all the profound energy in his body. Now, his small body didn't have the slightest bit of strength, and he was practically an arrow at the end of its flight. Zhu Hai quickly recovered from his terror. Ha! Ha! No matter how formidable you are, no matter how extraordinary you are, you're only a child in the end, just a single person. If I don't kill you today, then there'll surely be no end of trouble in the future. Go! Kill everyone in this family. Don't leave anyone alive. Zhu Hai's voice had just fallen when Shen Jinglin suddenly took a step forward and picked up Xiao Bao, stuffing him into Feng Haitang's arms. Go! Immediately take Xiao Bao and leave this place. Go find Di Mingju. I'm not leaving. Xiao Bao shouted loudly and struggled with all his might. Uncle, the one they want to kill is me. I will never leave. Nyingqin said that one should be responsible for one's own actions. How could Xiao Bao let others get hurt or even die for him? Hai Tang. As Yin and Gij, I order you to immediately take Xiao Bao away. If you're not obedient, when Mayan comes back, I'll immediately have her expel you from the clinic. Feng Haitang hugged Xiao Bao tightly, her eyes turning red. She opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but she saw Yan Haotian's determined gaze. That gaze was clearly saying, "Little Master is the most important, you must protect him well." Even the people of the ink camp stand up one by one. "Little Master, the existence of our ink camp is to protect you. We usually eat and do nothing, and have never sacrificed our morals for others. This time, we finally want to be noble for once. How can you not fulfill our wish?" "Ahem. Little Master, if there's a next life, remember to take us as your subordinates. When you see the young miss, help us tell her that we're useless and didn't protect Little Master well. Instead, Little Master has to protect us. But we tried our best. Even if we have to risk our lives, we won't let anything happen to the young master." One by one, the people who were on the verge of collapse stood up, blocking in front of Xiao Bao and Feng Haitang. Feng Haitang could no longer hold back her tears and they gushed out of her eyes. Xiao Bao struggled to jump down, but Feng Haitang held him firmly, not letting him leave. Zhu Hai smiled coldly and said, "Just the likes of trash like you all want to stop us. Hoo-hoo, dream on. Charge." The black-clothed man did not say a word and rushed over like lightning. 5 of them charged straight at Feng Haitang. Without hesitation, Feng Haitang turned around and rushed to the door. The people of the ink camp have already pounced forward, using their own bodies to firmly block those people who tried to attack Xiao Bao. Puff! Blood splattered everywhere. Even Feng Haitang was hit in the back. Xiao Bao's eyes were completely red, and his little face revealed a crazy killing intent. Meanwhile, Zhu Hai had already swept past everyone's heads and reached out to grab Xiao Bao. Xiao Bao was grabbed by the neck and pulled out of Feng Haitang's arms. Feng Haitang screamed and threw herself at him, but was kicked away by Zhu Hai. Zhu Hai gripped Xiao Bao's neck and slowly opened his mouth, revealing his white teeth. Suddenly, the complacency and excitement in Zhu Hai's eyes turned into amazement in a split second. Immediately after, he saw his body soar into the air, as if he was being comforted by an invisible force, floating in the air. And Xiao Bao's body fell into a familiar embrace. Chapter 395. The man's cold aura assaulted her face and drilled into her nose. Little Treasure's body trembled slightly. After a long while, his blood-red eyes slowly returned to their icy blue color. Then, he heard the man's rare low and gentle voice. "Don't worry, I won't let them hurt you." Xiao Bao blankly stares at the man in front of him, his line of sight focusing little by little. Finally, Di Mingju's incomparably handsome face comes into view. His eyes, which had regained their icy blue color, were now a little red. She could no longer hold back her tears and they fell from her eyes. "Stop crying. How can a man shed tears?" Di Mingju frowns, his tone disgusted, but his movements are gentle as he personally wipes away his tears. Xiao Bao wrapped her arms around his neck and buried her head in his neck. His tiny body trembled slightly. Scalding hot tears flow down his collar and fall on Di Mingju's skin, scalding his heart to the point that it's somewhat sour. It was really strange. The former Di Mingju was clearly so cold and heartless, never moved by anyone's joy, anger, sorrow, or joy. But facing Mayan, facing this little fellow, he couldn't help but dote on her from the bottom of his heart. Even if this little guy is the son of Mu Yan's ex-husband that he hates. Di Mingju clumsily and gently pats Xiao Bao's back, his voice is rare and gentle. "All right, don't cry. Daddy will definitely not let these people who bullied you off." Xiao Bao raises his still tear-stained little face, sobbing as he says, "But, the ink camp, uncle, they all suffered heavy injuries, it's all because of Xiao Bao. Little Master, we're fine." She hears Feng Haitang's somewhat weak voice. We have a lot of drafts that Miss left behind, we won't die. Ahem. That's right. Even if we still have some injuries now, as long as the young Miss comes back and treats us, we will immediately be full of vigor and vitality. It might even be a blessing in disguise. The leader of the Ink camp who had followed Xiaobao this time, Guanhu says with a grin. The others also wiped the blood from the corners of their mouths to show that they were fine. Even Han Yi and Ying Mei can't help but sigh at the mystical drafts that Miss Mayan has refined. The injuries these people had suffered were actually very serious. Even in the cultivation continent, he might die. What's more, it's the Yenwu continent, where there's no spiritual power to restore the body on its own. However, after drinking the draught that Mayan had prepared for them, they actually managed to save their lives. Although his injuries were still quite severe. But as they said, as long as they wait for Mu Yan to come back and use the zither to treat them, they can be healed at any time. Seeing that the people of the Ink camp are all alive and well, Jojo Shenjinglin swaggered over, touching his face tenderly. Only then did Xiao Bao's tense body slowly relax. As for those black-clothed men, they've already been dealt with by Ying Mei and Han Yi. All of them either had their arms and legs broken, or had their intestines pierced and their bones shattered. They wouldn't die immediately, but the pain they suffered was 1,000 times worse than death. Especially Ying Mei. She was already regretting that she did not protect Miss June well, resulting in her disappearance. Even Miss June's only flesh and blood, her little master, was almost killed. This caused the ruthlessness and cruelty in her to suddenly soar. All his anger was vented on these black-clothed men. Chapter 396. However, Zhu Hai isn't the slightest bit pleasantly surprised. On the contrary, he's so scared that his face is drained of blood, and his whole body is shaking like a sieve. Xiao Bao's cold gaze sweeps around, and finally falls on Zhu Hai, a bone-chilling cold. They took Niangqin away. Di Mingju's eyes darken, and he raises his hand. Zhu Hai has already fallen from the sky in front of him. As soon as his feet touch the ground, Zhu Hai turns around and wants to run. Shang! A cold light flashes, and Ying Mei's sword is unsheathed, sweeping across. Ah, ah, ah. Zhu Hai lets out a mournful scream, and falls to the ground. One of his feet flies out, landing in the grass at the side. Blood gushes out like a tide. With such a large amount of blood loss, it would only take a moment for him to die. However, that wound is very strange. After being cut, it slowly turns into ice. The flow of blood also gradually stops. What's left for Zhu Hai is only bone-piercing pain. You can't kill me. I'm Jin Wangye's trusted subordinate. If you kill me, Wang Yao and Jin Wangye will never let you off. Jin Wangye. Di Mingju slowly reads out those 3 words. Yan Haotian steps forward, gesturing with his hands. It's Jin Wangye, who once wanted to marry Miss as a side consort in Xiaoan. Listening to Feng Haitang's translation, Shen Jinglin flies into a rage. What bullshit, Wangye, you actually want my sister to be a concubine, keep dreaming. As he speaks, he bitterly punches Zhu Hai. Pitiful Zhu Hai, a peak heaven stage expert, is completely unable to resist the attack of Shen Jinglin, an early earth stage. He can't even circulate his mysterious energy to resist. His face is solidly punched, and his nose is instantly broken, 2 of his teeth are spat out. Di Mingju's voice is still cold and aloof. As if there's not a trace of human emotion in it. What does your master want to do by taking mine away? Zhu Hai's heart is filled with hatred, but he's also extremely afraid. Hearing the question, he says in a trembling voice, Our Wangye sincerely admires Miss June. This time, she's not some side consort. Rather, he wants to marry her as his princess. At most, in another 7 days, everyone in the world will know that Jin Wangfei is Jun Mayan. This kind of enormous glory, I think there's no woman in the world who wouldn't want it. Fuck you, there's not a single woman who doesn't want you. Shen Jinglin roared once again, ruthlessly stomping on Zhu Hai's still intact foot. With a cracking sound, the leg bone broke. Zhu Hai once again let out a blood-curdling scream like a pig being slaughtered. After screaming, he fiercely glares at Shen Jinglin and Di Mingju. I don't know who you people are. However, you won't have a good ending for attacking me. Do you know what kind of person Jin Wangye is? What kind of power does it have? Hee, what's more, even if you kill me, Jun Mu Yen is destined to become Wangye's woman. Even if she wants to resist, how could she possibly escape from Wangye's grasp? Perhaps, she's already under our prince's body right now, ha ha ha. Ah! Suddenly, Zhu Hai's wild laughter turned into a heart-wrenching scream. Bloody holes appeared on his flesh at a speed visible to the naked eye. Inside, fiery red things that looked like bugs crawled out. Chapter 397. After the skin, it's the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. In just the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, Zhu Hai's whole body is already riddled with holes, and he doesn't even look human. No, his appearance is even more terrifying than the ghost's mutilated corpse. At first, he could still scream, but later on, he goes in less and exhales more. But he can't die, and can only bear this kind of pain all the time. Kill me. I beg you, kill me, woo, woo woo. Later on, his tongue and throat are also corroded by the little fiery bugs, and he can no longer make the slightest sound. But even so, he's still not dead. Jun Shang. Han Yi kneels down. Jun Shang, please calm your anger. Jun Shang, please calm your anger. Ying Mei also kneels down. Shen Jinglin and the Ying camp members, who don't know what's going on, only feel an instinctive fear. The earth seems to tremble. The air seems to be filled with the mournful cries of the creatures of heaven and earth. That's the will of the entire Yanwu continent being shaken, unable to bear it. Suddenly, Xiao Bao reaches out and gently touches Di Mingju's eyes. Let's go find Nyangqin. Let's go now. The killing intent in Di Mingju's eyes slowly recede, and his gaze falls on Xiao Bao. It's Xiao Bao's voice that sobers him up, preventing the world from collapsing due to excessive use of power. And that sentence, go find Mayan. If anyone covets his Mayan, he will certainly make them die without a burial ground. The energy within Di Mingju's body surges, and he's just about to carry Xiao Bao and set off. Suddenly, in the distant eastern skyline, a multicolored glow suddenly blooms. Immediately after, the originally unremarkable, even somewhat dusky moon in the sky suddenly becomes as dazzling as the scorching sun. But it's not a blazing light that burns people, but like flowing silver sand, bright and cool, pure and holy white light. Then, in the sky, around the moon, bright stars slowly appear one after another. These stars all have different colors. The only thing they have in common is that they're 10 times, 100 times brighter than the other stars. 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, a total of 9 stars appear in the sky. Coupled with the moonlight that's as bright as the blazing sun, the originally dark earth instantly becomes as bright as day. Everyone simultaneously looks up at the sky, stunned by this vision of heaven and earth. What is this? How could the moon be so bright and big? What were the 9 stars? Why haven't I seen it before? The 9 stars appeared one after another, then slowly moved in an arc, protecting the moon in the middle. Seeing this scene, Di Mingju, Han Yi, and Ying Mei suddenly widened their eyes, simply unable to believe what they're seeing. June, Lord. Isn't that the 9 stars linked to the moon? How could such a phenomenon appear? Don't tell me, the legendary spiritual vein that can match with Jun Shang has been born. But how was this possible? Wasn't it said that because of the uniqueness of the spirit vein, it was no longer possible for it to be born in the world? What's more, this Yanwu continent that doesn't even have spiritual energy. Di Mingju's pupils slowly contract. Shen Jinglin's voice sounded in his ear. If I'm not wrong, that should be the direction of Huang Yao's imperial city. The imperial city of Huang Yao is also in the direction of Jin Wangfu. Jun Mayan is there. Who was the one who caused such a phenomenon? Chapter 398. Han Yi and Ing Mei almost immediately think of the same thing, and then they're incomparably sure. Whoa! Suddenly, Little Treasure clutched his chest and let out a muffled groan. His little face scrunched up in both pain and panic. What's wrong? Di Mingju quickly looks down. Xiao Bao gasped for breath and said, Mother. Mother. I think Mother is in danger, let's go quickly. Extreme worry caused his voice to change and tremble slightly. Hearing that, the complexions of Di Mingju, Han Yi, and Ing Mei all change. Oh no, the reconstruction of the spiritual meridians will take at least 12 hours. During this period of time, Miss June can be said to be completely defenseless. Han Yi still hasn't finished his words. There's a flash of light and shadow in front of them, and the figures of Di Mingju and Xiao Bao have already disappeared without a trace. Han Yi and Ing Mei look at each other, and promptly keep up. As for Zhu Hai, who was neither a human nor a ghost, he had all the bones in his body broken and thrown into the mass grave together with those black-clothed men. He believed that these people, who were more miserable and terrible than ghosts, would be able to get along well with the corpses in the mass grave. Although Shen Jinglin, Yan Haotian and the others are also worried about Mu Yan, they know that even if they go, they would only be a burden. He could only stay in Tianyuan City and wait for news. Mayan is currently in an extremely mysterious state. As soon as the enormous power of the Tian Mo Qin flows into her body, she only feels a heart-wrenching pain. That kind of pain is even more terrible than when the Tian Mo Qin recognized him as its master. However, as the energy slowly gathered in his dantian, it flowed into his meridians bit by bit. The pain in his body was still there. However, his body had an even more distinct sense. It was as if he had turned into a baby and returned to his mother's body. In the warm and gentle amniotic fluid, her body grew little by little. From his bones, to his flesh and blood, to his skin, to his meridians, to his sea of qi. He was growing bit by bit. Following that, profound energy filled her qi sea, filling her body with strength. However, there's still a lot of power pouring into her from the Tian Mo Qin. Her body was also constantly changing. In his lower abdomen, a vortex slowly formed in his qi sea. It dispersed and condensed again and again. Then, it slowly formed a mysterious place. That was the dantian. Cultivators would only have a dantian when they circulated and stored spiritual energy. However, when an ordinary person reached the peak of the Xiantian realm and endured the lightning tribulation, they would eventually reach the body-forging stage. The sea of qi would disappear and turn into the dantian. The Xian qi could no longer be stored and could only be stored in the spiritual power. However, a dantian and a qi sea have formed in Mayan's lower abdomen. Her Xian qi was still full and had reached the high level of pre-celestial. The spiritual power in the space also began to frantically rush into Mu Yan's body and gather in her dantian. At this moment, Mayan has become the only practitioner in the Yanwu continent who practices both profound and spiritual cultivation. However, everything was far from over. After the Dantian is formed, the formidable power of the Tian Imo Chin begins to wreak havoc inside Mayan's body. His meridians were torn apart bit by bit, and then healed bit by bit. The pain was simply indescribable. Those who endured it would really want to die immediately. However, Mu Yan thinks of Xiao Bao, thinks of her brother Shen Jinglin, and also thinks of Di Mingju. She originally thought that coming to Jin Wangfu this time wouldn't be dangerous. Not only did he rescue Liu Beiyu, he could also investigate the actual situation of Tiandao sect. Chapter 399. She can't die. Even if it's painful, she absolutely has to grit her teeth and endure it. Under the guidance of Mayan's consciousness, the frenzied and disorderly meridians slowly converge into a bundle, gurgling through her body. Liu Beiyu and Bai Chen, who are at a loss of what to do, are shocked to find that the surface of Mayan's skin, which was still constantly oozing blood, begins to sparkle with a lustrous light. The bloodstains covering Mayan's clothes, even the bloodstains on her clothes, slowly disappear under this light. It's as if Mayan's body has absorbed it. Brother Bai, you, look, Master's meridians. The two look down and see that Mayan's exposed meridians are slowly beginning to change color. Red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, purple, gray, brown, the 9 colors are constantly changing. At first, the meridians still look sinister, but slowly, these colors turn transparent. Then, they all turn lustrous white. Bai Chen subconsciously glances out the window. Yes, lustrous white, just like the moonlight outside the window. He sees that the moon in the sky is getting brighter and brighter, bigger and bigger. The bright moonlight sprinkles down, making the world as bright as day. The entire Jin Wangfu also runs out because of this unusual movement. As the moonlight brightens, the 9 stars surround the moon. The lustrous white meridians floating on the surface of Mayan's skin slowly disappear. But the light on her body is getting brighter and brighter. Even if it's already as bright as day outside, the brightness in this room already makes people feel that it's unusual. Both Bai Chen and Liu Beiyu reveal worried expressions. In this way, Jin Wangye is bound to find something strange. Just as they're thinking this, the door is suddenly pushed open. Jin Wangye and his trusted subordinates burst in with large strides. When he sees the scene in the room, Jin Wangye gapes in shock, his eyes wide open. Liu Beiyu and Bai Chen are close, so they can't see clearly. But Jin Wangye, who is standing at the door, can clearly see that behind Mayan, there seems to be a halo shrouding her. Lustrous white, beautiful, holy and flawless. Just like the bright moon in the sky. There are 2 moons in the world, one hanging high in the sky, guarded by 9 stars. The other is behind Mayan, radiating brilliance, like a goddess descending to earth. What does it mean? As Jin Wangye watches, his breathing slowly becomes heavy, his eyes bursting with a greedy light of determination to win. At this very moment, the entire Yanwu continent, or perhaps everyone in the 3 realms, has been turned upside down because of the descent of this vision. Huangyao country, Tiandao sect. Late at night, on the highest peak of the Tiandao sect, it should have been quiet and desolate. But now, almost all of the core members of the Tiandao sect were standing on top. They watched the strange phenomenon in the night sky in shock. Why is there such a phenomenon in the world? There must be a reason behind this. Could it be that the world is going to be chaotic soon? As he spoke, the 9 stars surrounding the moon began to move at an extremely slow speed. Faint rays of light were released from the 9 stars and connected to the silver moon. 9 stars and moon. The night was as dark as day. Suddenly, everyone on Lingyun Peak felt the celestial qi in their bodies stirring. It was as if it wanted to devour something greedily, but it also seemed like it wanted to surrender. Every inch of his meridians felt like they were being cleansed and burned. Just when everyone was bewildered, the sound of something tearing through the air suddenly came from Lingyun Peak. Chapter 400. A figure flew out from the hole and landed in front of everyone. The people of Tiandao's sect were shocked at first, but when they saw who it was, they immediately revealed expressions of shock and respect. "Greetings, Ancestor." Everyone knelt down. Someone else couldn't help but ask, "Ancestor, didn't you say that you're going to go into death seclusion? Why did he suddenly appear?" The one who spoke was the sect master of the Tiandao sect. In the Yanwu continent, he can be said to be a person with monstrous power and influence. With a stomp of his foot, he can shake the earth 3 times. However, when faced with the white-haired old man who looked like an ordinary middle-aged man, he was extremely respectful and did not dare to show the slightest bit of disrespect. The old man ignored them and looked up at the 9 stars and moon in the night sky. A pair of deep and turbid eyes began to turn red bit by bit, burning with a greedy and excited desire. Even his originally steady breathing became heavy due to excitement. "It's this power. It's this power that can help me break through my shackles. I don't know what this power is, but as long as I use it, I'll definitely be able to overcome the lightning tribulation and ascend to the cultivation world. Ha ha ha, the heavens really don't want me to die. The heavens haven't forsaken me." The old man muttered to himself. His voice was so soft that no one could hear him clearly. However, his chaotic aura and excited tone aroused the curiosity of the people of the Tiandao sect. Just what was so strange about this phenomenon that it could cause the usually expressionless ancestor to be so agitated? "All members of the Tiandao sect, listen up." Everyone immediately lowered their heads and agreed. "Old ancestor, please give us your instructions." No one in the Tiandao sect dares to disobey. From now on, no matter the cost, you must find the source of this phenomenon. It doesn't matter if it's a human, a beast, or an object. Such a treasure must fall into the hands of our Tiandao sect. Everyone from Tiandao sect was stunned at first, then they immediately replied, "Yes, old ancestor." Looking at the direction in which this vision is rising, it seems to be at the border between Huangyao country and Qiyan country. Let's immediately spread out our manpower and go investigate. Jingqing Country Imperial Palace. What is this? Gong Qinshue didn't even put on her clothes properly as she hurriedly ran out of the palace. Looking at the moon and stars in the sky that were getting bigger and bigger, she let out a cry of surprise. Someone's aura was rapidly approaching. Gong Qinshue knew that it was her senior brother, Jian Feng. Yanwu Continent's #1 alchemist, Tiandao sect's genius and treasure. Senior brother, what is this? Gong Qinshue knows that Jian Feng's origins are very mysterious. The things he knows are far more than the people of the Yanwu continent. Jian Feng's position in Tiandao sect was even higher than Tiandao sect's sect master. But no matter how mysterious or powerful he was, so what? This was just a dog that had been bewitched by his charm and was dead set on him. Feeling Jian Feng's adoring gaze, Gong Qinshue felt a trace of pride in her heart. However, his face revealed an expression of worship and complete trust. Jian Feng's eyes were filled with shock after seeing the strange phenomenon. Hearing Gong Qinshue's question, he frowned slightly. 9 stars linked to the moon, I've only heard of such a phenomenon, but I've never seen it. However, I can feel that this power is very powerful and very special. Jian Feng slowly turned his head and looked at Gong Qinshue. His eyes were filled with affection and fervor. Junior sister, do you still remember the immortal soul fetus that you fancied? Chapter 401. Although Jian Feng has never seen an immortal fetus, he has obtained the blood of the mother of the immortal fetus. The power contained in that blood makes Jian Feng so excited that he almost forgets himself and jumps up. Because the power contained in that blood is not only pure and powerful, but also transcends this world. If Gong Qinshue could seize this power, why would she worry about not being able to cross the tribulation and ascend? She just didn't expect that the immortal fetus and the pregnant woman would ultimately disappear without a trace. When Gong Qinshue hears Jian Feng's words, her beautiful face distorts for a moment. Not obtaining that immortal fetus is a lifelong pain for her. At that time, she thought that the woman was just a weak girl who hadn't even reached Wang's stage. It would be a simple matter for that woman's relatives to dig out the child in her belly. Who knew that there would be unexpected complications, causing her to lose the best opportunity to advance in vain? Gong Qinshue takes a deep breath, forcefully suppressing the unwillingness and resentment in her heart. Senior brother, why did you suddenly mention this? Jian Feng says, I feel that the power of this 9 stars and moon seems to be exactly the same as the power of the blood you brought back that day. If I'm not mistaken, the person who caused this vision is probably related to the immortal fetus and the mother. Ha! Gong Qinshue inhales a breath of cold air. Her eyes suddenly widen. Senior brother, you mean that woman and the immortal fetus are still alive? It's very possible. Jian Feng's eyes flash with a scorching light. Even if they aren't, as long as we find the source of that power, junior sister, you still have a 90% chance of crossing the Thunder Tribulation and ascending to the Shuzhen continent. At that time, junior sister and I can. Jian Feng speaks with deep affection, but Gong Qinshue doesn't listen to a single word. In her mind, there's only the immortal fetus that's still alive. If she finds that immortal fetus and the mother, no, she must find that immortal fetus and refine it into a puppet. Because that immortal fetus should belong to her. It should be the stepping stone for her, Gong Qinshue's advancement. Compared to the vision seen in the Yanwu continent, the Shuzhen continent and the Shuxian continent haven't reached the level where night is as dark as day. However, the shock that some people on these 2 continents receive is far greater than the people of Yanwu continent. Because the people of the Yanwu continent don't know what it represents, but many people from these 2 continents do. Especially the Shuxian continent, which stood at the pinnacle of the 3 realms. In the night sky, the scene of the 9 stars and the moon was faintly discernible. The bright moonlight shone on the ground, covering it with a layer of silver frost. The world that was filled with immortal qi was now shrouded in a mysterious veil. It gave people the illusion that they were in a fairyland. However, on the Shuxian continent, almost everyone's faces were pale. At the peak of the polar domain, everyone stared at the bright moon in the distance, lost in thought. 9 stars linked to the moon, the stars and the moon vie for glory. Does this mean that the only moon spiritual root that can match Jun Shang has appeared? Someone couldn't help but shout excitedly, Elder Chang, quick! Quickly make a divination to find out where the person with the moon spiritual root is. You must find him and bring him back. Elder Chang, who has been called, has a very calm expression. His complexion doesn't change, it's only the appearance of a heavenly vision. It doesn't mean that the moon's spiritual root will definitely appear. Why be so anxious? Chapter 402. Jun Shang's destined woman is Miss June. Now that the 9 stars and the moon has appeared, was it caused by Miss June originally? This should be a very happy matter. A moon spiritual root that can match Jun Shang's bloodline has finally appeared. But the problem is that Miss June's identity is that of a Shin musician. If it attracts the attention of others and her identity as a Shin musician is discovered, the consequences are simply unthinkable. The people of the polar domain are excited. Suddenly, the space in front of them fluctuates. Immediately, the figures of several women appear between the light and shadow, vivid and lifelike. This woman is dressed in white, her face covered with white gauze. Her whole body is tall and slender, her temperament is otherworldly and noble. It's obviously just a shadow, but as soon as it appears, it gives people an incomparable sense of oppression. Behind the woman was a young woman with an exceptionally beautiful appearance. It is Ling Qingwan, who just came to the polar domain some time ago. Seeing this woman in white, the expressions of the people of the polar domain change. Among them, a few of the younger ones promptly bow in salute. Greetings to the master of the Tian men. I don't know why the master has descended. This master of the Tian men still seems to have a graceful figure, like a young girl. In fact, she has already lived for thousands of years. Today, half of the people standing on the summit of the polar domain are her juniors. The woman in white's gaze slowly sweeps over the people present. After a long time, she opens her mouth and says, "Everyone, there is one thing I must tell you. Just now, at the moment when the 9 stars and the moon appeared, the spirit bell that sealed the Shin musician's tomb rang without any wind. Do you know what this means?" Hearing the master of the Tian men's words, the pupils of several people in the polar domain suddenly contract. The panic and fear on their faces can't be concealed no matter what. There are also some people who are at a loss, their faces puzzled. Elder Chang and the others secretly look at each other, their faces revealing worry. They only hear the woman in white continue. 1,000 years ago, the remnant of the Shin musicians, Bailey Yinlu, retaliated on her deathbed, leaving behind the most poisonous curse. The fire of the Shin musicians has already been sown in the 3 realms. One day, that spark will set the prairie ablaze, burning the 3 realms to nothing. On that day, no one who participated in that battle will be spared. Their bodies will perish and their souls will disappear, consigned to eternal damnation. The woman's voice was cold and calm, but it was as if her words had smashed into everyone's ears. The faces of several people standing on the peak of the polar domain mountain turned pale inch by inch. Their eyes were filled with fear and uneasiness, but in the end, they all turned ruthless. The master of the Tian men sighs softly. "Back then, we annihilated the Shin musicians in order to rid the 3 realms of evil, without the slightest bit of selfishness. Today, for the peace of the 3 realms, we will never allow the remnants of the Shin musicians to survive." Not bad. Someone immediately agrees. The Shin musicians are demons that break the balance of the 3 realms and bring disaster upon themselves. They shouldn't exist in this world. We are exterminating them for the sake of all living beings in the world. Since she is a remnant of the Shin musicians, then she is the descendant of the demons. How can she be allowed to live in this world? Ling Qingwan unhurriedly takes a step forward and says, "Everyone, have you ever wondered why the spirit clock that sealed the Shin musicians would ring on its own during the 9 stars and moon? Ho! Don't tell me that the person who possesses the moon's spiritual root is a remnant of the Shin musicians? How is this possible? The moon's spirit root is the only bloodline that is compatible with our Lord." Chapter 403. Ling Qingwan's eyes flashed with a trace of displeasure and jealousy. In her heart, she was the only one in the world who could match up to the Supreme Emperor. That person with the moon's spiritual root, what was he? Even if he was a descendant of the Shin musicians, how could he be compared to her? The sect master of Tian men smiled faintly with a hint of coldness. What is the identity of the emperor? How could an ordinary woman be a match for him? What's more, if that person with the moon's spiritual root really is a remnant of the Shin musicians, and let her become the mistress of the polar domain, have you ever thought about your chances of survival? As these words came out, the complexions of several people in the polar domain greatly changed. Elder Chang finally couldn't stand it anymore. He takes a step forward and sneers, "Master Lang, judging who is a descendant of the Shin musician just by the time the ghost bell rings, isn't it too arbitrary? What's more, what kind of mistress will my G domain marry, and who are Jun Shang wants to match, when has it ever been Tian Men's turn to ask? The atmosphere instantly became a little awkward. The face of the Tian Men's sect master sank at once. Ling Qingwan's face was even more distorted. After a long while, she flicks her sleeves. In any case, my Tiani men will never let off any Shin musician remnant. I would rather wrongly kill 1,000 than let off one. As for your polar domain, take care of yourselves. Please send my regards to the Emperor. After saying that, a light and shadow flashed in the air, and the illusory figures all drifted away. At this moment, the 9 stars and moon in the sky was finally completed. The strange phenomenon in the sky slowly began to fade, and the day turned back into night. The ever-changing expressions of everyone in the polar domain were also slowly concealed in the darkness. Huangyao Country, Jin Wangfu. Jin Wang's sudden intrusion catches Liu Beiyu and Bai Chen off guard. Especially when his greedy gaze falls on Mu Yen, whose entire body is emitting a silver light, it makes their hearts sink even more. Jin Wang steps forward step by step, his gaze seems to burn anxiously on the girl's pure and holy face. When he reaches out to touch Mayan's face, Liu Beiyu ruthlessly bumps into him. Don't touch my master. However, when Liu Beiyu's palm, which contains all of his internal force, hits Jin Wang, not only does it fail to push him away, instead, his face suddenly turned pale, and he bounced back a few steps. He felt a sharp pain in his chest, and blood almost seeped out of the corner of his mouth. Bai Chen's pupils contract, his eyes are filled with graveness as he looks at Jin Wang. Mayan once told him to be careful of Jin Wang's hidden strength. He's far more frightening than what he appears on the surface. At that time, he didn't take it to heart, but now it seems that Jin Wang's strength is actually far higher than his. Jin Wang, on the other hand, seems as if he doesn't notice their existence at all. His gaze falls on Mayan, infatuated. The hand that was knocked away by Liu Beiyu doesn't stretch out again. Instead, he presses it against the edge of the bed, then slowly leans over and kisses Mayan's light pink lips. Don't you dare touch my master. Cough, cough. Liu Beiyu wants to rush up, but after struggling for a bit, he falls to the ground. Bai Chen pressed his hand on the hilt of his sword, the veins on the back of his hand bulging. Seeing that Jin Wang's face is getting closer and closer to Mayan, suddenly, there's a burst of dazzling white light. Jin Wang lets out a muffled groan, and his whole body is sent flying several meters away, falling to the ground. When he raised his head, his handsome face was slightly distorted because of the pain, and there was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. However, the light in his eyes was getting hotter and hotter. Chapter 404. Master. Liu Beiyu promptly rushes over and stands by Mayan's bedside, fiercely glaring at Jin Wangye. Jin Wangye wipes the blood from the corner of his mouth, and slowly gets up. His line of sight turns and falls on Liu Beiyu and Bai Chen. Ah, Liu Beiyu, how did you escape from the dungeon? Chen, how could you be here? Liu Beiyu's face is flushed, firmly guarding Mayan's window, not saying a word. Bai Chen slightly bows and says, reporting to Wang Ye, this subordinate found traces of Liu Beiyu at night and tracked him here, but a sudden vision occurred. Before I could deal with it, Wang Ye came over. Jin Wang slightly narrows his eyes, is that so? His tone can't be said to be believing, but it can't be said that he doesn't believe. Bai Chen's hands hanging by his side slightly clench into fists, this subordinate will send Liu Beiyu back to the dungeon. That won't be necessary. Jin Wang reveals a meaningful smile, tomorrow is Ben Wang's wedding day, and he is Ben Wang's new Wangfei's apprentice. Naturally, he has to stay to observe the ceremony. Bai Chen suddenly widens his eyes, almost unable to control his expression. Liu Beiyu directly shouts, dream on, my master will never marry you. Just based on a toad like you, you want to be worthy of my master. Bah! Jin Wang's eyes become stern, but he doesn't get angry. Instead, he sneers, wait until tomorrow, when Mayan becomes Ben Wang's woman and enjoys herself on Ben Wang's bed, you will know whether or not Ben Wang is dreaming. Saying that, he turns around and leaves. At the door, he suddenly stops. Yichen, what do you still want to stay in this room for? Don't tell me you're also acquainted with Mayan. Bai Yichen's hand tightens on his sword, but he still walks out. The door is slammed shut, and all the windows are also closed. Liu Beiyu promptly rushes over, wanting to open the door, but he finds that it's tightly shut. Even if he exhausts all of his mysterious energy, he still wouldn't be able to open it. Liu Beiyu turns his head in panic, and sees that Mayan is still unconscious on the bed. The silver light has already receded from her body. His hands tightly clench into fists. He would definitely protect his master, even if he had to die. Outside the room, Jin Wang looks at the confidants around him, and coldly says, "You're not allowed to mention what you saw today to anyone. Otherwise, you'll be killed without mercy. Do you understand?" "Yes, Prince." Only then does Jin Wang's line of sight fall on Bai Yichen. Bai Yichen's voice was calm as he said, "This subordinate will not say a word to anyone. Yichen, I naturally believe in your trustworthiness." Jin Wang smiles. "Next, Ben Wang needs you to do something. Help me send a letter to the palace and give it to my brother. Ask him to attend this prince's wedding." "Me?" Bai Yichen looked surprised. He had never been to the imperial palace of Huangyao country. Moreover, he doesn't want to leave Jin Wangfu at all right now. Otherwise, what would Mayan do? Jin Wang's smile deepens. "Naturally, in this Wangfu, the one I trust the most is you, Yichen. Sending a letter to the imperial palace is such an important matter, so of course I can only leave it to you. Rest assured, as long as Yichen comes back before noon, you will definitely be able to attend Ben Wang and Mayan's wedding." Bai Yichen tightly wrinkles his brows, not answering. Jin Wang's complexion sinks, and he faintly says, "Or are you saying that you were deceiving Ben Wang just now?" Chapter 405. You appeared in Mayan's room because you had an affair with her. If that's the case, then Ben Wang doesn't mind making Mayan my woman right now. With that, he makes a gesture of turning around to go in. Bai Yichen grits his teeth. Wang Ye must be joking. How could this subordinate know Wang Fei? I'm just worried that when this subordinate leaves the Wangfu, there would be no one to protect Wang Ye's safety. Jin Wang smiles. You don't need to worry about this, Yichen. Come back quickly, Ben Wang and Mayan are waiting for you to come to the bridal chamber. Bai Yichen finally takes a look at the room, then turns around and leaves. As soon as it's 7 a.m., the door of the room is pushed open with a bang. Liu Beiyu is guarding Mayan's bedside. He's already in a daze, trembling with fear. As soon as he hears the sound, he immediately jumps up from the ground. He sees that there are maids, guards, and old maids, all kinds of people coming in one after another. The maids are all carrying trays, with all kinds of jewelry and bright red clothes on them. Everyone is dressed in an extremely festive manner. As soon as the old maid enters the door, she immediately shouts with a face full of smiles, "Wang Fei, great joy, ah." Liu Beiyu vigilantly looks at the newcomers, and sternly says, "Who let you in? Go out. Don't disturb my master's rest." The old maid who just spoke turns to look at the still sleeping Mayan. Her smile becomes more and more flattering. Today is Miss June and Wang Ye's big wedding day. This is a great honor and joy, how could it be a disturbance? Your Third Highness, please step aside, we will help Miss June change into her wedding clothes. The auspicious time waits for no one, it must not be delayed. Saying that, the old maid turns her head and picks up the bright red clothes, shaking them out. She exclaims, "Look at this phoenix crown and red cloud cape, it's all woven from heavenly silk. It's not an exaggeration to say that it's priceless." Jin Wangye has never been so attentive to a woman. Not only did he officially marry her, he also specially sent someone to the ghost city overnight to buy this wedding dress. Are you kidding me? Liu Beiyu angrily reaches out and pushes the old maid away. Stop dreaming, my master will not marry that perverted pervert. Make him scram. Ouch! The old maid screams and falls to the ground, the wedding dress in her hands also falls to the ground. Liu Beiyu lifted his foot to step on it, but just as he lifted his foot, however, he felt a powerful surge of profound energy rushing towards him. He let out a muffled groan and took a few steps back. His qi and blood surged, and he almost vomited blood. A pair of soap boots slowly walked forward and stopped in front of the wedding dress. It bent down and was picked up by a pair of bronze-colored hands. Liu Beiyu's line of sight slowly moves up, and what he sees is a seemingly ordinary face. However, Liu Beiyu's face paled when he felt the pressure emanating from this person. This one is Nie Zhen. Today, I have come to welcome Wang Fei to dress, and to perform the ceremony of husband and wife with Wang Yi. The man's voice was very calm, and there was no hostility on his face. Logically speaking, he should be very harmless. But Liu Beiyu's heart sinks little by little. Nie Zhen and Zhu Hai are two of Jin Wang's most valued confidants. Both of them had reached the pinnacle of the innate realm. His hands were stained with countless lives. How could he protect his master with his weak strength? Didn't Jin Wangye say that he would let my master consider it for 7 days? Liu Beiyu withstands the pressure caused by Nie Zhen. He straightens his neck and says, "Don't tell me that the dignified Jin Wangye of Huangyao country wants to go back on his words and not keep to his word. Aren't you afraid of being ridiculed by the world?" Chapter 406. He sneered, his eyes filled with disdain. His Highness did promise Miss June that he would give her 7 days to consider. But as early as yesterday, Miss June had already agreed to marry Wang Ye and become the new Wang Fei of Jin Wangfu. My family's Wang Ye admires Miss June. Since Miss June has already agreed, then naturally we should hold the wedding as soon as possible to avoid any accidents. You're talking nonsense. How could my master possibly agree? Why not? Nie Zheng's smile became even more contemptuous. In the end, Miss June is nothing more than someone from a small, inferior country like Qi Yan. She doesn't have any power or influence, nor does she have any family background that can be shown in public. In fact, when he was young, his virginity was taken away and he gave birth to a bastard. For such a woman to be able to marry my Wang Ye as the princess consort is a great blessing. When Miss June heard Prince's request, she was so happy that she shed tears of gratitude. She agreed to Prince's request on the spot and asked Prince to hold the wedding as soon as possible. That's why His Highness set the wedding for today. Liu Beiyu is so angry that his whole body trembles. How could these people be so shameless? Master had clearly not agreed to anything, but they could distort the truth like this. Haven't you noticed that my master is unconscious? Liu Beiyu stubbornly stays by Mayan's bed. Even if the wedding is to be held, shouldn't it be after my master wakes up? A deep and serene light flashed through Nie Zheng's eyes. Wang Ye has repeatedly exhorted that before Mayan wakes up, they must complete the wedding ceremony and the bridal chamber. This was also the reason why the wedding, which was supposed to be held in the evening, was brought forward to the morning. At that time, what's done is done. Even if someone knows about Mayan's uniqueness, she would already be Wang Ye's woman by then. The others were unwilling, but what could they do? The corners of Nie Zhang's mouth curled up, revealing a faintly discernible smile. The auspicious day and time have long been calculated. Even if Miss June is unconscious, it will not delay the wedding ceremony at all. Miss June wants to marry our prince so much, I'm sure that when she wakes up and finds out about this matter, she will only be happy and will absolutely not oppose it. After saying that, Nie Zhang waved his hand. 2 guards immediately stepped forward and grabbed Liu Beiyu. The old woman and the maid came to the bedside, ready to take off Mu Yan's clothes and put on a phoenix crown and a red cape for her. Don't you dare touch my master. Liu Beiyu's eyes turn red when he sees Mayan's outer garment being taken off. The profound energy on his body suddenly exploded. The 2 guards were only high earth stage. Caught off guard, they were forced to take a few steps back. Liu Beiyu stumbles as he rushes over, grabbing the old woman who profaned Mayan. He raised his hand and gave her 2 tight slaps on the face. Who told you to touch my master with your filthy hands? Ouch! Murder! Murder! The old woman screamed like a pig being slaughtered. Those maidservants are also kicked to the ground by Liu Beiyu, and the whole room is a mess. Liu Beiyu stoops down to carry Mayan on his back, and immediately rushes out. However, he suddenly felt a tearing pain in his shoulder. Then, a thorn, accompanied by the smell of blood, pierced out from his left shoulder. Ah! A blood-curdling scream overflows from Liu Beiyu's mouth. Mayan, who was originally helped up, also falls back onto the bed. Blood drips from his shoulder, dripping onto Mayan's snow-white dress. It was like blooming red plum blossoms. However, this was not the end. Chapter 407. The thorns cut through his flesh, and continue to move forward. It's like they're growing frantically. Then it turns in front of him, and suddenly pierces through his other shoulder. Once again, it returns to Nie Zhang's hand. Nie Zhang holds both ends of the thorny vine with one hand, and gently tugs. Liu Beiyu screams as he's dragged over. Nie Zhang looks at his pale and distorted face due to the pain, and sneers, overconfident thing. A waste from a third-rate small country, even if I chop you up and feed you to my Wangfu's watchdog, you're still not qualified. You actually want to oppose our Wang Ye, hee. If you weren't Miss June's disciple, I'm afraid your dog life would have already been gone. Guess, if you died, would your Qi Yan country have the guts to come and settle accounts with our Wang Ye? The strength in his hand suddenly tightens. The thorns cut through flesh and bone, making a teeth-aching sizzling sound. Liu Beiyu's head is covered in cold sweat from the pain, his complexion is as pale as paper, and he can't even speak a complete sentence. Nie Zhang laughs heartily, patting his face with his blood-stained hand. Rest assured, stray dog, our Wang Ye won't kill you. Not only won't he kill you, but he'll also let you personally witness Miss June and our Wang Ye's wedding ceremony, and then the bridal chamber. After all, you're Miss June's only relative, and can be considered as a witness. Dream on. Liu Beiyu's whole body trembles in pain, but he clenches his teeth and enunciates each word. What does Li Jinting count as? He doesn't even deserve to carry my master's shoes. You dare to force my master to perform the ceremony. When master wakes up, she'll definitely slaughter your Jin Wangfu until it bleeds, rivers of blood, dying without an intact corpse. Cough, cough, cough. Liu Beiyu's words make Nie Zhang's expression suddenly twist and turn gloomy. Thinking of the scene he saw last night, Nie Zhang's heart is also somewhat drumming. No one has ever been able to trigger such a heavenly vision. If this June Mayan wakes up, she really wouldn't want to marry Wang Ye no matter what. Then their Jin Wangfu might really not have a good time. Taking a deep breath, Nie Zhang laughed sinisterly. If it's just a wedding ceremony, perhaps Miss June will still resist. But what if her body is obtained by our prince? Do you think she can only accept her fate and follow our Wang Ye, or her reputation will be ruined and she will never be able to marry again? Moreover, His Highness had expected such a situation to occur. Therefore, he made a backup plan. As long as that matter is done, no matter how fierce Jun Mayan's temper is, she can only obediently become the target of Wang Ye's oppression and slavery. How could there be any room for resistance? Thinking of this, the worry in Nie Zheng's eyes dissipated, and he coldly looked at the servant girl on the ground. How could these people dare to neglect? They immediately stepped forward to take off Mu Yan's clothes and change her into a bride's dress. Don't touch my master. Get lost. Scram. Liu Beiyu sees these people taking off Mayan's clothes, leaving only her undergarments. However, none of the men and women in the room avoided it. Even Nie Zheng is interested, his eyes burning as he looks at the snow-white skin on Mayan's hands and neck. He only feels his lower abdomen slightly tighten. Jin Wang Ye is famous for being a beauty, and the number of women that he has married into the Wangfu is innumerable. But very few people know that for Jin Wang Ye, these people are nothing more than playthings. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.